Sure.
I see what's going on here.
You can get this senior terms. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This absolutely. It's a savage law.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll now call the city council regular meeting to order, 6 p.m. September 11th. We will now rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Invocation will be given by Councilwoman Brittany McGuire.
Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for this evening, Lord. Thank you for all of these individuals that came out to participate. Lord, I'm asking that you give us wisdom, supernatural wisdom, Lord, to understand each one of these issues. Help us to be able to see the clear decision that you would have us make. And Lord, also, this is September 11th. So I'm asking you to be with each and every one of us across America, Lord, as we remember what happened on that day. Lord, I thank you for your comfort and for your good health and for your safety. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire,
Here.
Councilmember McCure,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, we have a lot of speakers tonight on a couple of issues, so just want to remind everybody, we did run out of sign-up forms, but that's fine. We understand it's going to be a popular topic to talk about, so everyone will have an opportunity to speak. You will have 3 minutes to speak on each topic. You'll just have to state your name and address, and I would just ask no one to speak unless you are at the microphone so we can get everything on the record. And everyone will be allowed to speak one time on each issue that they want to speak about. Won't be allowed to come back and ask multiple questions, and otherwise it just go on forever. All right. First item be number 4. We have proclamation, be the Florida Department of Transportation Mobility Week.
We do have representatives from FDOT here. I just can't. Yes, I see.
Okay. You wish to speak?
You put that address in your ways.
Team.
Yes, sir.
And tonight you're going to hopefully vote or proclaim Mobility Week. This is a week where the department really concentrates on getting out our message. And if you have any festivals or things going on in your community, Mobility Week is November or October 27th through November 4th. Although we would love to come down and educate you and your community at any time of the year. And we have gifts, free gifts and handouts. I did bring a few sobering facts with me today that I'd like to share with you and the community.
Please.
Last year, there were 3,536 people who lost their lives on Florida's roadways, and another 16,000 seriously injured from crashes. This equates to 8 people die and 44 are seriously injured on Florida roadways every single day. In Highlands County, as of just 3 days ago, there have been 701 crashes thus far, which include 11 fatalities. Of those 701 crashes, 25 involved a motorcycle and 15 involved a bicycle. Additionally, there were a total of 107 hit and run crashes thus far in Highlands County. The majority of the crashes involved men and women ages 18 to 44 and were a result of simply driving carelessly. So that is our message. That's what the Florida Department of Transportation wants everybody to understand, that every time that you get in your car, you're taking your life basically in your own hands. So make sure that you use your seatbelts, drive as carefully as you can, and especially watch out for the other vehicles, because we don't want you to be another statistic. So that's our message. We appreciate the city to support our message with this proclamation tonight. And that's all I have.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
well, we
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and read this proclamation into the record. Whereas Mobility Week is a cooperative effort by the Florida Department of Transportation and its partner agencies to promote awareness of safe multimodal transportation choices by hosting an annual collection of outreach events. And whereas Mobility Week is an ideal time for counties, cities, and transportation agencies to highlight achievements, introduce new initiatives, and/or implement new policies promoting sustainable transportation. And whereas Mobility Week is an opportunity for individuals to explore various transportation choices available and consider how sustainable travel choices reduce traffic congestion, benefits the environment, and improves community health. And whereas Mobility Week is consistent with the City of Avon Park's key priorities of public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas the City of Avon Park supports Mobility Week, now therefore I, Garrett Anderson, Mayor of Avon Park, hereby do proclaim the week of October 27th through November the 4th, 2023 as Mobility Week in the City of Avon Park, and encourage all citizens to explore transportation options available to them and to participate in Mobility Week events. All right, thanks again to FDOT for coming and sharing with us. We will move on to the consent agenda. This will be for items 5 through 9. Be looking for a motion to approve consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda number C 5 through 9, please.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns?
I have one question for staff. This is about the third or fourth time now that our fuel costs are above the $25,000 limit. Is there something we could look forward to maybe possibly make a change? Because not only has the fuel prices gone up, as everybody in this room knows that when they go to the pump, the same thing at the airport, but also we have more traffic out there. So instead of having to have somebody call at the last minute and just have us run out on the weekend, is there something we could do to increase that with authorization?
We could look into that. Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or concerns on 5 through 9?
No.
Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes,
motion passes.
scrolling down here. Item number 10, this will be a public hearing for annual rate resolution number 2023-17, fire assessment.
I'll read it into the record.
Okay.
A resolution of Avon Park, Florida relating to the provision of fire rescue services, facilities and programs in the city, establishing the rate of assessment for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2023, imposing fire rescue assessments against assessed property located within the city, approving the assessment roll and directing delivery thereof to the tax collector, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Okay,
Did you have just Chris Rowan? Is Chris Rowan?
Yes, he is. He's on Zoom.
Okay.
do we want to give an overview from Chris Rowe, or do we want to talk about the actual methodology, or what?
I'm glad to give a very brief overview, Mayor. This is Chris Rowe. I'm special counsel to the city. I assist with the annual administration of the city's fire assessment program. The city is required by its code of ordinances to go through a process each year to update the assessment role for the citywide provision of fire protection services. That process for updating the role involves adoption of a preliminary resolution to set forth the proposed rate for the forthcoming fiscal year and to describe details and conditions of the imposition, including the date of a hearing at which council will meet to approve the role. That meeting took place on July 24th and scheduled the public hearing for tonight. Now that we are at that hearing, council is required, not only by its code of ordinances, but state law, to hear any comments from the public or affected property owners who wish to be heard before the council votes to approve the assessment for the forthcoming fiscal year. The resolution you have before you sets forth the rates that would be in effect if the council were to adopt the resolution, and provides that the charge will be collected on the annual property tax bill, which is issued by the county tax collector each November. That's the same collection method the city has always used for its fire assessment. And I think that's the overview, Mayor.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Could anyone from Stantec perhaps go over I know there was a new rate study done, go over perhaps the overview of the methodology that was used?
Yes, sir. My name is Peter Napoli from Stantec Consulting. We were hired by the city this year to conduct a fire methodology assessment study for the city, and you have an existing fire assessment in place. So what we do in a methodology update study is essentially update all of the parameters that go into creating an assessment program. So the methodology that your fire assessment is based on is called demand for service. So it's based on the calls that are made to the fire department and the allocation of those calls amongst the different property classes: residential, commercial, industrial, government, institutional, and vacant. It's prudent for a city every so often. We recommend 3 to 5 years to update this. So it's not based on old data. And it had been some time since you updated the allocations underneath the methodology. So that was part of our goal of the study, was to update those allocations. We got all of the call history from the fire department, where the calls have gone to over the past 3 years. Another component of it was updating the cost of service requirement. So looking at how much the fire department costs in terms of operational needs, personnel needs, and capital needs over a time frame, and how much you're currently collecting with your assessment program. We then calculated the rates, provided the city with options in terms of cost recovery. So the city does not have to collect 100% of the fire department costs. You can collect anywhere underneath that. You just can't collect over that 100% mark. And really what that gives the city the option of is you can either fund your fire department through property taxes and general revenues, or through this fire assessment program and any mixture thereof. So the less you fund with your fire assessment program, the more you fund with property taxes, and the more you fund with property taxes, the less you'll fund with the assessment program. So we've calculated rates for the city. Currently, what the rates that were noticed reflect a 55% cost recovery. So about $1.3 million in assessment revenues would be generated by the program. So this would result in an increase to the residential single family rate, $140 to $185. So an increase of $45 annually. It's an annual assessment that appears on the property tax bill at once a year. And that's basically the summary of the study that we performed. And I'm here to answer any more questions if they come up.
Okay. Does council have any more questions for Stantec?
All right now, thank you. Good
All
job.
right. Just one point of order. Common misconception is that the fire assessment is based off of saving human life. I believe it's actually based off of saving property. Mr. Rowe, could you possibly give an overview of exactly what it's protecting?
Yes, sir. The state law on assessments provides that in order to fund a given service through the assessment means, that service has to provide a special benefit to the property that's subject to the assessment. So in this case, the fire protection services, of course, they benefit both life and property, but for assessment purposes, it's really based on what the benefit to the property is. And properties that do not benefit are not assessed. Properties that are benefited by the provision of fire services, by the readiness to serve, et cetera, they may be assessed under Florida law. And it's a proportional allocation system whereby the relative benefit enjoyed by each property category is scaled. So a property group that receives more benefit would pay more. That proportionality is likewise required under Florida law. So in short answer then, Mayor, the fire protection services, although they do benefit people, for purposes of the assessment, the focus is on the benefit to the property served by the fire department.
Okay. Everything to add? So therefore, the EMT calls would be excluded from the calculations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. The state's courts have determined that emergency medical services primarily benefit people and not real property. And for that reason, you don't assess for the EMS costs. To the extent a given fire department provides both fire protection and emergency medical services, the emergency medical services component of the overall cost is excluded from consideration. And that's what Pete has done here.
Okay. Any other questions for the attorney before we get started? Seeing none. All right, we'll go through the actual physical sign-up sheets first. We've got, looks like Robert E. Hillman Sr., Joe Hilton Street, Avon Park. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Lily Hilton. My address is 1925 State Road 64 in Avon Park.
Okay.
My question was that I have some property. It's the address is 409 and 423. And like I said, it was on Joe Hilton Street. And I want to know, do we have to pay the extra taxes because it's vacant? And it is in the Hilton Ministry 501c3.
So vacant properties are currently assessed at $76. Yeah, $76.
Yeah, I have a letter saying 76, 78. But the reason I'm here is that I don't think it was necessary, or should I pay it, because there's no housing on there. It just empty a lot, and
Right.
The fire department wouldn't do me any good.
Yeah. So perhaps Stan Tech could touch on some of the calls that were seen to the actual vacant lots.
Yeah, so it's quite common across the state to charge vacant lots a fire assessment. It's typically much lower than what the residential assessment is, but there are calls that went to vacant lots over the past 3 years, a significant portion of calls that went to them. Typically, when we look at the call analysis, if it's less than 1% of the calls, we don't bother creating a class. In this case, I believe it was around 6% of the calls went to vacant properties. So the assessments were calculated based on that 6%. And then in my experience working with fire departments, they'll say that they often have to go fight fires on vacant lots. Brush fire needs to be put out. They can't just let it burn. And I could defer to the chief to, further explain that, but essentially vacant properties do receive a benefit from the availability of fire service. The fire department does have to respond to calls there. And yeah, it's quite common across the state to charge vacant properties per parcel. So it doesn't matter usually the size, they just get a flat fee. And I believe Highlands County charges their vacant properties as well.
Okay. Did that answer your question, ma'am?
Well, I heard what he said, but that don't answer my question. Well, it may be in a way, but I still think it's unfair for me to have to pay $78 yearly on property that no house is there. It's just been vacant for about 10 to 15 years. And that's why I'm here. If I thought it was okay, then I wouldn't be here.
Okay. Well, ma'am, if your property was to catch on fire, would you want the fire department to put it out?
How's the property gonna catch on fire? Nothing but grass and a couple of trees.
Well, ma'am, obviously 6% of the time it does happen according to the
Yeah.
calls.
Robert, my husband want to say something.
Okay.
Oh, wait, before he said anything, it doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit?
No, ma'am.
It doesn't?
No. Okay.
What if
you got property adjacent to each other and they got two different addresses. What's gonna happen in that case?
So every strap number would be assessed individually. So if you could have a property that's a quarter of an acre next to another property that's a quarter of an acre, that's two separate properties. Whereas you could have one property that's 10 acres, that's still one property. It goes by your strap number, which is that's how you guys assessed it, was by strap number, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
By individually owned parcels. So
Right.
individual parcels.
Right.
That looked like it's unfair to have a big property and then you gotta pay money on that as well as a little small property, because one of the properties is just a little small area and it's not very big, so you're gonna charge the same thing as the larger properties for the smaller property. It's gonna be equal value.
That's how the study was done, sir.
Also, so in my closing, so this what you guys want to hear us to decide you're gonna do, but you already have decided.
I'm telling you how the study was done.
I know, I'm talking about, is this is something you guys gonna make a law every year, what we're gonna have to do, or you want our opinion for you can find out how you gonna close it out?
Yeah, so the fire assessment gets decided at which rate every single year. So this has happened every single year prior. Every single year, there's opportunity for the people to come speak about that fire assessment. This individual year, there was a new methodology study, so that's why there's a big change.
Okay, but look like if you already done made up your mind, it look like we just hear.
I'm not saying the mine's made up, I'm just saying how the study was done.
So
Okay.
this is just city only, it's not county.
Correct. It's for a city fire department.
Okay, so if you're in the county, you don't have to worry about.
The county has their own assessment for their own service.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Got Al Henson, 903 South Pineland Avenue.
Al Henson, 903 South Pineland Avenue,
Yes, sir.
Avon Park, Florida. You know, I have a methodology that I was gonna give to you. It's different from what they've done. And I think you pay them to help the citizens of Avon Park.
Mhm.
Let me just set the record straight. I believe that every city should have a fire department and a police department. But if you made up your mind, you're the mayor, you got your running mate, you got your sister, that's three, that's the power. So I think you made up your mind. I don't think it's against the Florida sunshine. But I think y'all vote together, and you've seen that before, three people vote together. Now, I have a method, algorithm that for single family homes should be by square feet. Multifamily homes should be by square feet. Industrial should be by square feet. Everything you do should be by square feet. And that would help the citizen pay the same. Your house is probably off the chart that you're building out there. And I pay the same thing that you pay for fire assessment. That's wrong. That's totally wrong. And y'all should be ashamed to get these guys to bring that to you. And you just don't listen to these people. I know everybody here come up here for the same thing, and it's totally wrong. There is a methodology that other cities are using that help with the people that's not paying all the bills. And so you need to know the history of this fire assessment. For poor folks wasn't paying tax. So they brought up this fire assessment to get the underprivileged to pay, which is okay. People don't mind paying, but don't make me pay what you pay. Don't make me pay what she paid, because my house is smaller than that. And for the land, That's just unreal. That's just unreal. And, I have one, I got another minute. Right, I have a methodology that, I would pay $124 with the norm being what you said, that they said. See, you let other folks come in here and just destroy the city. 1,900 square feet, $172, 2,248,
That's
197.
5 minutes.
Okay. I just want to let you know that y'all should be paying more than us. And a lot of people here.
Okay.
I'm not right.
All right. All right, we have Moses Anderson Jr., 2326 Roxbury Road.
Council and Mayor Moses Anderson, 2326 Roxbury Road, Avon Park, Florida.
Yes, sir.
My main concern is to detail the funding. I hear you saying it's for calls. So the funds go strictly to, can you detail what it's going to?
The fire
And I know
department.
it's been in okay, for what? What specifically does the fire department do with the funds?
It pays their entire cost. So we have a total cost. The fire department, meaning all the employees, all the equipment, et cetera, is a total cost of $2,362,270. This fire assessment would collect 54% of that at $1,282,000.
Okay, so I still didn't get detail. I understand what you're saying, but you're basing it on the calls. If I understood you right, you said you base it on the calls.
So that's
Even
how it's
vacant-
broken down, is based off of the calls. Yeah.
Right, and what I want to know, this new tax, the details, where it breaks down, what it goes to, do it goes to the fire chief? Does it go to the employment?
Yeah.
Is evenly spread it?
So the fire department budget is a public document.
Right, I
You
understand.
can look at everything that there is to look at in there.
Right,
So just
So-
know that 54% of those funds would be coming from the fire assessment.
you're missing my point. I understand they have a budget and it's detailed. You have increased it this year with the assessments of your group. What are the assessments broken down to go toward? And I imagine you should know because you said this is annual. Every year you just increase it. What is the increase for? I mean, just an increase because it's normal to do it? There's a need that you have increased it on the citizens of Avon Park.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what last year the actual funding rate was. It looks like it was probably somewhere in the 40-something%, probably the low 40%,
41%.
41%. So this year it's funding it at 54%. So basically 54% of that 2,362,000 is coming from fire assessment, whereas last year it was roughly 41%.
Is the assessments charges within that budget? The ones that done the assessment to increase it?
Sure. I mean, you can compare last year's fire assessment to this year's fire assessment, last year's fire budget to this year's fire budget, and you should get all the answers that you're looking for.
I have no problem with increase of taxes if it has a purpose and I understand it. But it's just being increased, and I guess he just said it was based off the calls, and then maybe it can be a call from vacant property, but I don't see it. But
6% of our calls went to vacant properties. There's no denying that fact.
okay, but I just want to see what the detailed tax breakdown of this, what you charge each property. I have a few properties in the city.
Sure.
And all it gives you is a bulk base price, but it doesn't say what it goes to. I know you're saying the assessment, the fire department and what it's operating, but it should be a need for an increase, not just an increase to increase. But if there's a need, we may accept it better.
Sure.
But you're just giving us something and saying, pay it. I want to know what I'm paying. And to say I'm supporting the fire department, I totally do. I think the chief and all the firemen and all help should be paid, very good salaries. But, I just wanted to know, what is this increase all about? Where is it going? What is it earmarked for? And I'm sure it's earmarked for some, either phone calls, phone lines, new tires, uniforms, whatever. I
Well,
don't know.
It doesn't quite work exactly like that. I mean, it doesn't, there's not going to say that your property's tax portion is going to go to a tire or whatever. It doesn't work in
Not
that
just
detail. Right.
Percentage wise.
Right. So there's other constraints on the general fund, right? So all of the funds for the fire department come from the general fund directly. Okay,
Right,
that's the only place that they can come from. There's only select number of taxes that can go into the general fund. The
right,
two largest are currently the fire assessment and the millage rate, which would be your regular property taxes.
right.
So with more constraints on the general fund budget, we were looking to fund more of the fire department's budget from fire assessment rather than pulling more into millage or more into some other revenue source.
So if I'm understanding, the budget has increased this year.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the confusion is, okay, we have to pay 100% of the fire department, right?
Right,
So a certain percentage comes out of the general fund, which is paid with taxes with the millage rate, and a certain percentage was paid from the fire assessment.
right,
So we are basically shifting the balance of that. So we're still paying for 100% of our fire department, but more is coming from fire assessment and less is coming from millage. So if you have increases in your budget, you either pay more in millage, pay more property taxes, or you pay more fire assessment. So it's not that there's a huge increase to the budget, it's the fact of which percentage. So we're trying to balance those two percentages. It's still paying 100% of the fire department.
not to interrupt you, I understand that completely. The 54% comes to how much increase for the city?
$540,180,
And that's about a little over half of the budget.
25%.
And see, the increase, I don't see it. I mean, I'm just trying to understand where it was earmarked, where it went, what area, and I'm over my 3 minutes. But
All right.
that's my question.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
I just wanted to say, we've gotten some comments from people in the hallway saying saying that they can't hear speakers. So if you wouldn't mind making sure your mouth, you were fine, you were clear. Make sure your mouth is right on that microphone so we can pick it up. I appreciate it.
Okay. Up next, we have Arnold Davis, 1214 Carolina Avenue. If it's on the paper and I can read it, I'll put it out there.
Arnold Davis, 1214 South Carolina Avenue.
Yes, sir.
All my life, I wanted to own me a home. From a little boy, I said I was gonna own a home. But I didn't know that it was gonna come to the point that taxes, if I got sick and couldn't pay my taxes, the extra charges that the city put on us, that it'll be taken away from me. Because I read on that slip, if you don't pay this, we'll possess your property. I didn't know the city was in the business of being landlord.
And so is the county, and so is the school board, and so
Yeah,
is the sheriff's department, so
but
the whole down the list.
we used to the county. Remember when you got the last fire truck? You say that was gonna be it. The last fire truck that we, the citizens, paid for. And then we come around, and I look around now, I see everybody driving a truck. All but the ones on the back of the garbage truck. You're buying new trucks. I'm talking about who budgeting the money? The money got to be budgeted right. And that way we won't have to mess with the people. If we budget the money right and just stop spending on everything. But so tell me something about that.
What would
About
you
all the
like to know
new trucks,
specifically?
all the new trucks.
I couldn't list.
How
all-
much is that running a year?
I couldn't tell you, brother. If you want to go through the entire budget and look at every single new vehicle, I'm sure we can do that. But right now, we're currently talking about the fire assessment.
That's what I'm talking about, the fire assessment. Didn't you say all that money, some of that money come from the general budget?
Yeah, so as right now, it's proposed 54% coming from fire assessment, so the remainder of what's left from 100% will come from the general fund.
So, oh boy. So if we manage the general funds, right, we wouldn't have to put all these taxes on the people.
Well, the general fund taxes do come from the people. You do realize.
Yeah, but it's not being budgeted right.
I'm not sure how you can figure that.
All these new vehicles.
Okay.
And then there's no work being done in the city. You're not doing your work. Trash day out for weeks. Holes in the road, somebody said. I mean.
Okay.
I mean, we put you in there to work for us. I mean, and you see the people that here tonight, they're here to ask you not to put this high price on us. That's what we're here for. Am I right?
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So when we vote for you to work for us, not to down us.
Okay, we'll have to keep the speaking down from the crowd there. So. All right. All right. People, I understand that you agree with them, but I can tell you, if you want to get through all the speakers, you got to make it quick. So Thomas Etchison, 3211 South Highlands Hammock Drive.
My name is Thomas Etchison, and I'm the president of Crystal Lake Club Homeowners Association.
Yes, sir.
I'm here on behalf of the 900 residents of our community, 509 homes. I feel the initial proposal for the fire assessment tax increase is excessive. We are requesting the city council to reassess and reduce the proposed amount. Crystal Lake Club is a retirement community, and the residents, most of them are on a fixed income. We have to be careful. I want you to reconsider this tax increase. I know the fire assessment tax is essential, but I want you to really realize, do you really need that additional $45? That is my point. And I appreciate the opportunity to address the council.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the gentleman?
No, sir. But I'd like to make just a couple of comments. So while you're up there, because I'm a retired senior citizen, and I also am on a fixed income, just so you know. But I think one of the things there's a lot of talk about seeing trucks and so on and so forth is because we had to start 3 or 4 years ago replacing vehicles that were 15 and 20 years old. In fact, we're replacing some that are still over 20 years old. They were still being used, and we're constantly spending money and upgrading mechanics trying to do them. We also have turned around in the last 4 or 5 years, probably increased the amount of people that work for the city so the job gets done correctly. And so the more people you need, the more vehicles you need. And I think most of all that everybody here will agree is inflation is killing us no matter where we spend the money, whether it's at the gas station, the grocery store, taxes on your house, homeowners insurance, car insurance, all of that's gone up considerably. It's the same thing with everything in the city expenses. We've had to replace our entire computer system because it was so out of date. We couldn't use it because up until about 3 or 4 years ago, nobody was spending money on increasing or upgrading any equipment we had. And we had a minimum amount of employees to do the job. And when we finally had to decide, we had to do something about it. So not only are we trying to upgrade and catch up from where we lost out for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but also inflation is also killing us probably about 25%. Just that's my opinion. And I hope you take it for what it's worth.
One other thing, we have lost a few of the benefits we used to receive from the city of Avon Park. We used to have good road repairs and resurfacing, but that's not happening. And also the mosquito spray. They used to spray the city for mosquitoes and it's not happening. And it's getting to be a problem. Check with the health department. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right. Up next, we have Steve Alsop.
That's right.
Yes.
My name's Steve Alsop, and I live at 433 Northeast Sneed Circle in Avon Park. Also, I'm here. Is that better? Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah, I'm limited on time, so I made some bullet point talking points. I'm also the manager of Crystal Lake Club, just in case you're wondering. So I am here on behalf of a lot of these folks here. And I know from the last meeting, I watched it online, I wasn't able to attend, but there was going to be talk about, removing the 80 unit cap. And I'm not really sure. I wasn't here when that happened, so I'm not really clear exactly. Maybe some of you people were on the council when that went into effect. I know you annexed CLC, Crystal Lake Club, into the city of Avon Park around 2014, I believe. At the time, having service, our fire service was through the city of Sebring, and paying around $9,000 a year. The very next year, when we got annexed by the city of Avon Park, it went up to 70-something thousand. I'm sorry. And then the very next year, somehow, seriously, it went back down to about 11,000. And somebody in the council put a cap on it because of these homes. We're like fish in a barrel, and we can't use the Homestead Exemption Act because we're on leased land. So we're stuck, you're going to get your money from our owners, and then we have to reimburse the owners of the park. And it's just, it seems like it's unfair to us because we can't claim the homestead exemption to reduce taxes. And then also, if you look at the lots, I know you've probably been in these mobile home parks, the lots are small. I mean, and that's, one of the questions I had to go through this whole thing because it would take me too long. But, one of the questions I had, what constitutes a unit or a lot? And we've talked a little bit about that. Is an 800 square foot single wide mobile home on a 4,000, square foot lot? Is it going to pay the same fee as a sticks and brick home, a 3,000 square foot home on 2 acres of land? And what I understand it is, I mean, you do pay, and the empty lots in Crystal Lake, we pay somebody to come in and mow those. We have trees trimmed, and I understand brush fires do happen 6% of the time. But we have 90 empty lots, and we're going to be paying, $76 a piece for each one of those 90. And if you put all those together, it's probably going to equal about 5 acres. And if somebody had 5 acres, they're going to be paying the $76. We're going to be paying like $9,000 or whatever it comes to. I'm not sure. Right. So, and not only that, very quick, the proposed real estate millage increase for 2023. I look back at some of our millage increases, and it started like 5 years ago as 0.3%. Now it's going up to 6%. That's a 2,000% increase. Yeah. And that's just simple math. Anybody in here could figure it out. But 2,000%, and now you want to take the 80 cap away from us, plus increase the 140 to 185. To me, that is extreme because it's going to put 820% increase on our residents just on that alone, and not counting the 2,000% increase that we're paying. So when I started 2 years ago managing the park at Crystal Lake Club, time. Yep. Okay. Well, when I started, the residents were paying $300 a year and add income tax, and that also included the non-envelope. Now this year it's gone up to $488, and with all these tax increases, next year it's going to be around $750 for these people. And like they said, a lot of these people are on fixed incomes, and I'm the one that has to, collect this. And if they don't, then I have to go to the attorney and start evicting people, and I don't really want to do that. So I'll cut it off there. If you get a chance, please look at the rest of the bullet points and talking points I had. And if you would like to contact me about any of them in my office, just look up Crystal Lake Club, and you can give me a call, talk about it.
Very good. We'll take a look at it. Yes. One real quick point on we're not talking about the millage specifically here, but the millage and the fire assessment are both the proposed rates. So they're always proposed at the maximum that they could be raised. So 54% for the fire assessment, and I believe 6 mils were the maximum. It's not likely that that would be the case, but that is the maximum that was put out there for. All right. Up next, we have Anthony Buckinselli. All right.
My name is Adrian Shelley in 447 East Trevino Circle.
Yes, sir.
My first question, how much should we pay this consulting company?
Any idea what the fee was there, gentlemen?
I believe it was around 35.
$35,000. $35,000.
Yeah, the study began in early March. No, I live in Tampa.
No, they're not an Avon Park firm.
Okay, that was my first question. So. Sorry, I had to throw it out there.
Yeah.
There were a couple of points brought up by a few people. One of them was, as far as the fairness between empty lots, size of lots. I mean, really, when you think about it, does that make sense? Just on a logical point of view, does that make sense?
The only differentiation that I see is probably a maintained versus not maintained lot. Typically, brush is far more likely to have an actual fire that would be cause for concern versus a well manicured grass.
Crystal Lake Club.
I've been in there hundreds of times.
It's a beautiful club.
Right.
And everybody takes care of their property. We've never had a problem with it. Yeah, with that said, I've been living here 2 years.
Okay.
Came down here as 2 years ago with my wife. To tax people to the breaking point is ridiculous. And this is a money grab. That's all it is.
Well, that's not at all what it is.
Well, it is. With all due respect, so if you can justify it through legal means, this is my opinion. Through legal means, and you hide behind whatever you think the law says, but you got to take into account people. There's a lot. Thank God, me and my wife both work. We're still pretty healthy. We live there. We love it. And thank God, but there's a lot of people that are way less fortunate than us.
Sure.
And they're living on fixed incomes. And you can't take from going from $300 a year to $700 a year. And you could say it's the 54% and it's all that, but I think the one gentleman was just asking, so it's a $1.2 million increase overall, correct?
No.
It's not?
No, sir.
How much is the increase?
540. Well, the increase of the amount of fire assessment that's being collected is $540,000.
The increased millage, what would that be?
We're not going to be, we only needed roughly I don't know what the exact number was that we needed to collect more, but I believe it was around that $540,000. So we needed to collect $540,000 more dollars. So we have a choice there. We can either raise that through raising garbage rates, raising your different fees on different utilities, the millage rate, the fire assessment. There's a lot of different things that
was last year. Is that correct? The city of Avon Park?
No, we balanced the budget last year.
Okay.
And we balanced the budget this year, or we could dip out of reserves.
So but that's what I'm saying. What's changed? Why do you need an extra $540,000?
Well, we're going to be going through the budget a little bit later and you'll be able to see all the things that have changed.
Okay.
But it's not just the fire assessment. You realize it's not as if the fire department all of a sudden needed $540,000 additional. There's a lot of different funds that are coming out of the general fund.
Right, but all you're doing is taking peas from this bowl and putting them in this bowl. It's all the same tax.
We needed to collect $540,000 more dollars. So we can do that either through the fire assessment or we can do that through a combination of different taxes. But one way or another, this still has to get raised, or the alternative is to pull money out of the reserves. The downside of pulling money out of the reserves is that there's only so much reserves, and once they're gone, they're gone. So You can cut costs, or you can not maintain the different things that the city needs.
It's been such a hot button issue with everybody across the state with increasing insurance costs but also bringing it down. I mean, look at Tampa. You know, they increase the millage rate because it's political suicide.
And that's what we're looking at doing, is not increasing the millage rate and instead increasing the fire assessment. The fire assessment.
That's my point. We're getting it one way or another. I'm sorry, with all due respect, you're getting it one way or another.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. But if your costs in your personal life, if your costs increase and you don't have any more revenue, what happens?
Well, I can't go to my family and say, give me money because I gotta live.
You're going to tap into your reserves until they're gone, and then you're going to start losing assets.
Well, then maybe you guys gotta manage your money better.
Okay. Did your costs increase in your life?
Yes, and that's why I'm still working. I can retire, but I choose not to because I'm still healthy, but.
Well, the city's costs increased as well. I mean, I don't understand how that's hard to understand. Everyone's costs increase.
Well, just told that Stephen with CLC, this became a cash cow. So you found.
Time, that's 5 minutes.
You found a way to reassess for all these additional lots. And that's not fair.
So Crystal Lake Club was not being assessed fairly. Crystal Lake Club.
Right, we're not being assessed fairly now. Our taxes to go up $100,000.
Yeah, so your taxes went up the same as everyone else's though. So there's 509 properties out there. Those 509 properties should be assessed the same as any other property in Avon.
Chief, how many calls did you make in Crystal Lake Club?
Yeah, he's not gonna.
I don't have that number in front of me.
Right. But in either case, but we can get that.
You understand where we're coming from?
I fully understand where you're coming from.
And I'm not trying to be obnoxious. I'm trying to get a point across that it seems to the residents of Avon Park, not only Crystal Lake, it's a money grab.
Well,
it's because a consulting firm comes in and says something with their algorithms and all this, and then you go, well, that's a good idea.
Your time's up, brother.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Do we have Roy D. Waters here? Okay, he had a letter, didn't know if he was here or not. All right. So that's our actual signups that we have, but I'm sure there's plenty more questions. So anyone else wishing to ask a question that hasn't already been up, that hasn't already been up? Yes, sir, you in the back. You weren't up just a minute? Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Chad Pritchett. I'm a lifelong resident of this area. Currently live in the city of Avon Park and own a number of houses and vacant lots.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for your service to this community. I realize these are tough times and tough decisions have to be made. I'm here tonight, like a lot of other folks, to speak about the proposed fire assessments. I've spoken with the majority of you council members individually, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you as a group. I've been briefed about the fire study and the methodology behind the proposed assessments. I received the proposed trim notices in late August and became concerned about that at this time. My understanding is the vast number of fire responses is, and we've talked about this already through everybody else, but are non-fire related issues, i.e. nursing home calls, car accidents, 911 calls, retail stores, cat in a tree, etc. Literally hundreds of responses and only a few or a small amount of the true responses relate to actual fires in the city of Avon Park, maybe less than 10 per year. Does that sound correct?
That number a little low.
Low. Throw a number at me. If y'all did the assessment, what's the number?
That's in the neck of the woods anyways.
Okay.
Yep.
So we could agree that the fire department would respond to hundreds of calls, but only 10 of those calls or maybe 15 were fire related.
You need to direct your question.
Well, I'm asking the folks that did the study. So
Sure.
if you could tell me if you know the answer to that, go ahead and answer it.
You want to ask?
Sure. You'll have to ask the questions up here, but of
Gotcha,
course
they can
we're going to be
respond.
relaying the question.
Gotcha.
So is there any light that you guys can shed on that?
Yes, sir. I can shed some light on that. So we include fire and first responder calls. We are by state statute are not allowed to include ALS, advanced life support calls. That's related to EMS services and it benefits people, not property.
Gotcha.
So fire and first responder calls do encompass some of those basic life support calls. The first responder, the fire department has to respond and be the first on the scene for a whole number of issues, not just structure fires.
Gotcha.
So out of the 782 calls that we analyzed, 509 of those calls were included in the analysis.
Okay. How many were fire related though? Actual fire related?
So I can't tell you that right now, but I can
Wow.
tell you that out of the
That seems to be,
509
that would have been
calls,
important.
by state
detail.
statute, these calls are valid for the allocation. And it's the same methodology that's been in place for decades in Florida.
Well, I get that and I'll address that later on, but I mean, decades, we've, to the best of my knowledge, we've never had a fire assessment on vacant land in the city of Pavon Park. So we evidently hadn't adopted that methodology. But anyway, so I'm going to go on, but it would be helpful to know how many were actual fires. From talking to some of the council members earlier, I took it as about 10 per year, but that, I would think.
That's probably close.
Okay, so that being said, a very small percentage of the calls, of total calls, are being taken into account in this study. And we're making a decision that will literally generate millions of dollars for the city based on just a select piece of data, when in all reality, there's the majority of the information that would pertain to the fire department's responses aren't being considered. And I understand the methodology behind it. But just the same, the reality is we're ignoring we're saying this, we're basing this on statistics, but yet we're ignoring the biggest portion of the statistics that generate the calls. But we're basing our decision based on a study that was based on statistics. Well, if the statistics aren't real, then, what good was our study? That being said, I basically in this is just saying you use a very small sample size, which we did. The overall numbers can be substantially manipulated. And that's not statistical analysis. A statistical analysis at its finest by any means.
That's time, 5 minutes.
I own 57 lots in the city limits, so maybe I can get a few more minutes just because I've got some extra expenses. But that being said, 24 of those don't even have road, water, or sewer to them. They are platted lots that exist on paper and do not serve any purpose in their current state. They're all within the confines of a gated community. They have grass that is mowed monthly. It's less than 18 inches high. The total size of those 24 lots is approximately 3 acres total, about 4,500 square foot per lot. We have never had a fire on them and we present no fire risk. There's large wooded parcels all over town, but I mean, if there was a large wooded parcel, would it not present a substantially higher risk than a smaller cleared lot? Especially that lot's maintained, which ours clearly are based on city code enforcement guidelines.
Okay.
And basically, just to speed up here, I'm saying, how is that fair? Where's the precedent for that action? Under the proposed plan, I feel like those type properties are being unfairly targeted. Under the proposed fee structure, you are saying that a home is only twice as likely to catch on fire as a vacant lot based on the new assessment structure that be proposed. How could that be true? Fire assessments of vacant property are so unequal, in my opinion. I suggest we avoid them entirely, as we've done forever in the city of Avon Park. If you do feel we must assess this, I feel like we should have a system that's a little more fair. County, for instance, which was mentioned earlier, only charges $26 per vacant lot. Somehow we're proposing 76. Why that amount? Why now? Again, I understand there's some math behind it, but I'm beating on the study here a little bit. That being said, on a final note, and 2019, our millage rate in the city of Avon Park was 0.3. If this goes through, and again, I understand that it could be an either or, would be 6 mills in 2023. That's a 20-time increase or 2,000% increase in just 4 years. I understand things are increasing. I understand inflation exists. But those type of increases are not sustainable. And I feel like they make the city of Charm a little less charming. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yep.
Yes, sir.
I'm Roger Gerganis. I live at 1315 North Lake Isis Drive. I appreciate the council giving us the time to speak and hope that we do make some changes and go in a little different direction than this. I have a vast amount of holdings in Avon Park. My son-in-law that just spoke said a lot that I was going to say. I agree with him totally. we need to take a hard look at the way we are structuring these assessments. I find that there's something about this that doesn't make sense. An example, a few years ago, we assessed the nursing home approximately $30,000, and now they pay a little or nothing. And the majority of the calls go there. You have ones that own 5 and 10 acres of land that pay little or nothing. When you go from $0 to $76, that's the largest percentage of increase that I've ever seen. Please put your heads together and come up with a workable solution for all. I urge you to think about this and make it fair for all.
Thank you. That. Okay, you're getting the wave ahead, Brenda.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Chair.
She just raised her hand before you, that's all.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
My name is Brenda Gray, 410 East Lakeview Drive in Avon Park.
Yes, ma'am.
And council, my heart goes out to you all, really, for making this decision. I served on the council for 21 years, as you all know, and I know what a tough decision you have to do right now. I'm here against taxing vacant lots, first of all, because vacant lots, some of the lot sizes is 25 feet wide by 50. You can't do anything on them. You can't build a house. You cannot put a shed. You can't even put a garden on it. But paying $76 a year for that lot is ridiculous. One time before, while I was on the council, this came up, trying to tax the vacant lots. And the council voted against it. Someone brought it up, and the council said, no, we're not going to do that. I wish you all would consider this right now, because the lots are so small, some of them, especially on the south side of Avon Park, you can't do anything on them, nothing at all. So I'm asking you all to reconsider your decision about taxing the vacant lots. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ben.
My name is Fern Davis, 1216 South Carolina Avenue. And I'm here on behalf of my neighbors and myself. With the increase, everyone knows that everything is expensive.
Right.
And adding another tax on people with a limited income can make a difference between buying groceries, and I know it's once a year, but when you add it up to these people, it makes a big difference.
Sure.
So I think maybe, and I'm sorry, but I feel like the assessment should have been done in-house, and you need to like change budgets and lower the cost on something in-house besides putting it on all these people. Now, I'm saying that because I was in finance in accounting. So things that you could cut out, you probably should, and try to assess and understand these people, us, the community that is living on a budget. Because the majority of the people in Avon Park is seniors, and they do not have the money to spend on extra stuff. And we all feel it's unfair.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Angel Celestino Juarez Gutierrez. I just moved here about a year ago.
Yes, sir.
So please don't take this personally. I'm just going to be a little devil's advocate.
Sure.
And ask questions. The question is, why doesn't the fire chief know certain specifics to certain questions? You can't be an administrator if you don't know the numbers. Second thing is that since I'm the president of my street,
okay,
I'm here on their behalf. But I do notice that on other places that I've lived before, and I don't know if it's allowed here either through problems with the county or what have you, but the fire department people always look other ways to try to find money for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be out fundraising or what have you. Now, I know fire department is a very difficult job and it's very dangerous, but what job isn't? There's a lot of jobs out there that are also dangerous. I just feel that there should be a better budgeting for everything that's happening here. What I've seen here for a year, there's a lot of things that are needed. And I know we need to assess, but one of the ideas that I do have is, apart from the lots, that I don't think it's fair, but is that there are certain areas in Avon Park, they're a lot lower income. And they should be assessed a little bit differently. There are other areas that have higher, bigger houses. Maybe you should do another study regarding that. And maybe you should contract out another company. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be done. I
Sure.
just don't think to just say, oh, let's just raise it without having specific answers for us. Those are my questions.
Okay.
Have better specific answers for our questions.
Do you have anything specific that you would like to know?
I'd like to know is that what specifically, somebody raised it earlier, what is this money going to? Is it going to salaries? That's fine. It's a tough job, but what is it going to specifically?
Sure.
Is it going to trucks? Is it going to new equipment? What is it going to?
It's going to all the above.
Okay.
I mean, it's 54% of their budget. So you realize a large percentage of their budget is going to be salaries, but a large percent of it is also going to be equipment. It's 54% of that. It's not as if it's raising it because they need a new fire truck or something like that. It's not, that wasn't the issue. You understand?
Okay. So in the year that I've been here, I haven't seen that many fires here. What is this algorithm based on? I think it should, all statistics can be skewed to whatever you want it to do.
Sure.
Okay. So it's
So the methodology is published. You can read it.
Okay.
You can go.
Is that
down through it.
provided beforehand? Because the only thing I ever got about this was that one letter.
Sure. So we talked about it at our last meeting, and the actual entire methodology study was published in that last meeting budget. So all the budgets are online, but going back for several years, and you can read through. It's about roughly 80 some pages, and it goes through exactly how they arrived at every single decision. Or if you have a specific question, you can ask it, and we'll go ahead and ask them since the reps are here now.
Now, if I have a specific question, are you going to be making a decision tonight?
So it has to be voted on twice. Tonight is one of those times, and we'll have to vote on it at our next meeting as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hi, Robert Mascari, I live at 2693 South Country Club Drive, Avon Park. We've talked budget, but I haven't heard what is the difference from last year's budget to this year's budget. You've talked about the 54% going towards the budget, but you haven't said how much more is the budget from last year to this year?
540,000.
That's how much we're getting extra.
I'm not
asking how much we're having to pay out in expenses.
when you make your budget, you put everything together, right?
Yeah.
So last year you had a budget and you had to meet that budget. This year you've got a new budget. Okay, what is the difference between the two budgets that you need this much more money?
Yeah. Finance director will get it for you here in just a second. But while she's looking that up, I wanted to ask the attorney, our city attorney is bringing up that we only vote on the actual fire resolution once. So I wanted to ask Chris Rowe, are we voting on this once or twice, Mr. Rowe?
Yes, sir. The council considers it on two separate occasions. The first occasion was July 24th.
Okay.
This is the second and final meeting at which the fire assessment will be discussed and voted on.
Okay, so I want to clarify that to everyone. We have voted on this particular issue once. This is our second. So tonight is the final vote as well.
So last year's fire department budget.
All right, well, let's keep it down out there, guys. If you want to hear the information, we'll have to keep it down.
Last year's fire department budget was $2,154,320. And this year's budget is $2,362,270. So an
Okay.
increase of $207,950.
What, say the difference again, please?
$207,950.
But yet you're asking for $500,000 more.
In the fire budget, there's 200,000 difference in the fire budget. There's also increases in the general fund as well. Can you look up those?
Yes.
But shouldn't this money what you're talking about, this money is supposed to be going for fire assessment, right? For the fire department.
Yes.
So assessing $500,000 for us, but you're going to put some of it in the general account. See, that's not right. So I think you need to really think of morally how things are going as well.
Yeah.
You know, is this
So
really
we
the
needed-
correct thing to do?
To be clear, we needed to increase the budget by 540,000 to meet the needs that were specified by the staff, right? 540,000 in total. So one option is to increase it purely with the fire assessment, $540,000, which is what's proposed. Or we can do it all through millage, which is also at the 6 mills. That's what's proposed. We're not going to do both. Or we can do a combination of the two.
But the thing is, if you went with millage, you would have to have that go for a public vote, correct?
No,
This way you don't have to have a public vote.
no, it's still voted on by us here.
The millage, you can increase
sir.
any taxes without going through the public.
Within certain confines, yes.
I've never seen that anyplace else. That's
Up to 10% according to the attorney.
that, I've never seen that
We
anywhere.
change the millage every single year, sir.
Yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah.
I would like for you to consider the moral part of this.
Okay. Have you had any luck looking up the total budget?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to this year's, so hold on.
If you need more time, we'll go to the next question.
Yeah, go ahead and go to the next one and then I'll get. back.
Okay. Questions? Anyone else?
Say that's online.
I can
Everything's
answer that.
online. Yep.
Under the meeting portal, if you go under meetings, you can look up at the different meeting dates. The agenda packet is part of that. It's also bookmarked for each agenda item, so it's easy to locate.
Sir, we've already been, there you go.
Hello, my name is Carrie Pritchett. The first question is, I didn't receive this trim notice until August 20th.
Yes,
So my next question is, how is it fair to have a final vote on this tonight?
That's the process that we have. It's been
Because
the
you
thing for
you
years.
said you already met on this
At our last
and voted
meeting.
on it one time,
Yes.
but yet nobody was here to speak about it. This was the only time to be here. So how can we have a final vote? And then secondly, can you explain this to the people here in the audience, this letter?
I don't have it in front of me, but you're more than welcome to hand it up here. Okay. Thank you. What specifically are you looking for explanation on? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything has been notified and published according to,
Department of Revenue and State of Florida.
Yeah.
The trim notice goes out based on regulations that come from the state of Florida.
sure.
So we have budget meetings starting in July, which are advertised and everybody's welcome to come to those meetings. And then it accumulates into the tentative and the final budget hearings.
Sure. Yeah, this year was no different than any other year.
No, sir.
But did you have a specific question on the trim notice? Okay. Yep. Do you have a chance?
I did. So the total general fund budget in fiscal year 22-23 was $9,756,610. For fiscal year 23-24, it's $10,664,890 for.
10 million.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
$10,664,890.
Okay.
And the difference is $888,280.
Okay. So we had extra revenues coming from various funds, whether through,
Yes, so we have the return on investment. Is that what you're speaking of? So we have our water and wastewater fund that makes more money than the general fund does. So we have an ordinance in place that lets us take a certain percentage of the proceeds from the water and wastewater fund to fund the general fund. And this year for we are looking to bring in from the water and wastewater fund to the general fund $1.6 million.
okay. And that left a shortfall of roughly 540,000, which we were proposing to raise either through the fire assessment or raising the millage.
Correct.
Okay. And at current, the budget that's going to be proposed here a little bit later is at the same rate, the 4.368, which was last year's as well.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Evening, my name is Araceli Gomez. I'm at 71 East Wolf Street, Avon Park. I was wondering, would you consider postponing the vote tonight to be able to consider mixed options? You said the millage is an option or just this fire assessment. Would you consider doing a combination?
Sure. Yeah, that is one of the options is to have a combination of the two. To Melody, time wise, when is the deadline to get this done?
So we have to advertise it in the paper on Friday. So whatever we decide tonight will be advertised in the paper on Friday, the final hearing will be on Monday, the 25th. And I
Okay,
believe that's the same with the fire assessment.
okay. So we couldn't put it past Friday.
No.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
there's your answer. We
And
really need
actually,
to come
we
up with
have to
a,
have it to the paper, I'm sorry, on tomorrow. Mhm.
okay. So we need to come up with a decision tonight.
So if you didn't do the fire assessment, how would you know what you're short on? How would you find that out?
So we know that we need 540,000 additional dollars, whether it be through fire assessment or through millage. The millage rate getting set is going to be after this. So whatever we don't raise through the fire assessment, we have to then raise through the millage.
And how often do you repeat the fire assessment, you said?
We would do this every single year.
Through a
We-
different company,
We
not
just do a
Stantec?
study every, basically 3 to 5 years is what the suggested is. But this last time, I think we went, 8 years? Yeah, we went 8 years before doing the study.
Why so long?
The cost is one thing, it's costs a lot of money to do those studies. So.
We'll have to keep it down in the crowd, guys. Yeah, so the
Yeah,
cost.
so we're
cost-
paying for it now when inflation is high, which is wrong timing.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, as far as the breakdown of which categories, it goes based off of the calls. So they used more years of calls rather than only 4 years.
So you're saying the recovery costs are 54%, 1.282
Yes.
million, right?
Mhm.
So, but then I hear different numbers. Where's the 46% coming from? General fund?
Yes.
Yeah, the 46% is coming from general fund. Yep,
Okay, but you're only short 540.
correct. You're asking
But
about
you're
percentage.
assessing the fire assessment as 54%.
54% of the fire budget is what's proposed here. Yes.
But that's more than 540.
No, ma'am.
Help me understand.
I don't know how else to explain it.
It's
It's
54% of the 2 million and some odd dollars that the entire fire department costs to run each year.
2,362,000.
So you're raising 54% through the fire assessment.
That's what's proposed. Yes.
Previously, we used 41% with the fire assessment. So 59 would have come from general. So we're proposing shifting fire assessment up, keeping millage down, or using the general fund less.
Yeah, like they said before, you just take from one bucket to the other.
Well, what
Right.
you have to remember is millage rate it depends on property values. So even if you have vacant lots, all of you that are saying I have a smaller lot, well, you pay a lot less in property taxes than the people who have bigger lots in most instances. So if you pay more on a vacant lot for fire assessment, you're still paying less as far as your property taxes in most instances. I'm sure that's not the same everywhere. But if the millage goes up, then there's certain people that are going to feel the pinch. If the fire assessment goes up, everybody participates in the fire assessment.
I guess what I'm asking for is just what would be fair in terms of using different combinations to get a different strategy instead of just one.
Sure.
Because it's costing. a
We
lot.
can
Right,
split
yeah.
the difference and do half in millage, half in fire assessment. That's totally a possibility.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Eric Wilson, 1445 South Carolina Avenue.
Yes.
What is such a rush? Why you in such a rush?
we are on a budget to get everything turned. We're on a time crunch to get everything turned into the state according to the schedule.
Statutory schedule.
There you go.
Say it again.
Statutory schedule.
So
we-
Florida sets the rules.
Sure.
Because I'm like the young lady that just came up here. Just why not postpone this thing? Because you have so, I understand you're saying your Florida statute, but for some reason or another, we're having too many issues with rates going up.
There's not too many issues.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people decided to show up tonight, but there was other meetings that this was talked about.
Well,
And here's the kicker. They're the same time every single year, guys.
Yeah, but last meeting, I asked about the same thing. I asked about it. And it was like, well, it was like, we're gonna vote on it tonight and that's it. So, and you did. You voted on it. So what I'm saying is, if we are having issues with it, I mean, why not? I mean, you pay $35,000 for somebody to come in and do something. I don't know what do something else. I mean, we need something else. I mean, the people that got trim notices, now you're gonna vote tonight and say, okay, well, we're gonna do that, I mean, there's a lot of problems going on, and it seems like we ought to be able to calm this thing down and just say.
Do you have specific suggestions that you'd like to see changed about the fire assessment? Let's start there.
Yeah, the specific suggestion is that wait.
Okay, that's not a suggestion that we can unfortunately
That's my suggestion.
but we can.
Hold on. Can you explain what happens if we do not meet that deadline?
Sorry, Arnold, sit down, Arnold.
There is a process that every municipality in the state of Florida and every state goes through. It's called the truth and millage process. It's where we decide the millage rate and we decide the budget and we decide in some years the fire assessment. So if you don't follow the rules that the state puts forward, they hold certain funding from the city. You will not get your revenue sharing from the city, which in this case from the state, which in the case of the city of Avon Park, it's approximately $800,000. So we have to follow the rules. Another thing, you have to actually advertise that you've broken the law. So they set these rules in place for us to follow and we have to follow them. Our hands are tied.
Sure. All right, you cannot speak from the audience. Okay, you can't speak again either. If you already had your opportunity to speak, you've already had your chance to share your ideas and that's it. We have to move on. So the deadline is Friday. We have to get it to the newspaper tomorrow, but we cannot speak from the audience, guys. All right. Is there anyone else wanting to ask a question? Yes, sir. Please give your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is David Sanders. I live at 759 Northeast Turtle Stern, Avon Park.
Yes, sir.
I just moved here 2 years ago.
Okay.
But I have papers here that says the millage rate stayed the same for 7 years. All of a sudden, in the last 4 years, it's gone from 3 to 6.3 to 6. But my comment is, you as politicians or city service people work for the people.
Yes, sir.
And it just doesn't seem like you want to listen to us. I've heard that there were comments made that Crystal Lake Club in particular was a cash cow. We should go after that money because
You never heard that from us, sir.
Well, that's what I heard. But you have said that the budget has been mismanaged to us for the last 4 or 5 years, and now we have to start catching up, and we have to catch up quickly. That's what I'm hearing from the people up here.
Sure.
Do you have to catch all up at once, or is this, you're telling us that this is going to be a resolution for years and years to come? I mean, we should look at these kind of increases to be addressed by us on a fixed income. every year? I mean, this is a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money and you are affecting people on a fixed income. And I'm sorry that, this gentleman had a tendency to try to justify it, and I don't see the justification of it. I just don't.
Okay. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else? Yes. I seen a hand. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Hezekiah Fogel.
Yes.
And I stay on 423 West Bell Street. And I know probably a lot of y'all probably know me. Because, a lot of time I do a lot of work. But I used to
speak in the microphone there, brother.
I used to work for the city. I retired at 35 years, but I worked 37 years. And I know they asked me about coming back. But back then in the older days, we didn't have, they did things. Okay, they done things like you was talking about the budget. Okay, back there in the older days, we had a police named, well, I can't call his name, but he was going to sue against the city. Because the city, he was working with the city and he, went down and something went wrong with the airport. But the point of it is, they had the money. The state sent the money to the city. And what the city done, they put the money under the table. And when he got ready to sue, they wanted to know where was this $10,000 going? But they had the money up under the table.
Okay.
They didn't put, they like to say, we put so much money down here and we put so much money up here. And this is what's happening now. And I hear you talking about the land here.
Not sure
The
I
fire
follow.
department. I'm looking at it. We didn't do this 35 years ago. We didn't do that. We didn't do it like they're doing it today.
Okay.
We picked up this stuff off the ground and stuff. Trash, garbage, whatever it was, we got it done.
We had a higher level of service 35 years ago, you're saying?
Yes, I know now that the guy talked to one of the guys. Now he's talking about 20, say back then when we were working, it was 22 people working on the city.
Sure.
Now you got 11 people working on the city. That ain't enough to run this city. Then you're talking about new trucks. We kept our trucks up. They made us keep them trucks up. We didn't have one of those trucks. We didn't have that.
Okay.
Out of 22 people, 15 of them died. 15 of them passed away. Retired. I retired.
Okay.
So I'm asking you to just think about, let me say this, let's think about both sides. Let's cause like the brother was talking about the launch of Waco, some of them, I ain't got number one lot. I think it takes 3 lots to make an acre, right? Is that right?
Depends on how big the lots are, brother.
So I just only have just one, in the city, sometimes they got just one lot, maybe 2 little lots. But you can't build on them because you don't have enough property to build on them.
Okay.
But you still got to pay now. Listening at y'all today, we still got to pay $76, $79?
76 per lot is what's proposed.
Uh-huh. And that's, to me, I think that's wrong.
Okay.
I think it's wrong.
Very good. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. All right. Arnold, you've already had your chance, brother. You've already had your chance. I'm sorry. You can't do it. No, it's not going to happen. You've already had your chance. Everybody gets one chance for a topic. All right. So sir, you know the rules. You've been sitting here for too many years. So come on. All right. So we have a choice to make as to what we want to set the fire assessment rate at. Obviously, we've heard a lot about getting rid of the 76 per vacant lot, not assessing vacant lots, everything to that effect. Question for Stantec would be, is there any distinction that can be made between maintained and unmaintained lots? And is there any distinction that can be made to simply axe out lots altogether? Which is what we've done historically. I guess specifically, could you speak on what changed historically versus now on vacant lots?
So historically, you didn't assess vacant lots, so they were just excluded from the assessment program.
Okay.
And essentially, you funded that portion with the general fund, theoretically.
Okay.
Your question as to whether you can distinguish between maintained versus unmaintained.
Mhm.
I don't believe there's a field in the county property appraisers database that identifies that. So it would probably take if a field survey, you'd have to be out in the field, surveying it.
Maybe improved versus unimproved or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any, I can talk to the property appraiser, but
Yeah.
My knowledge of the property appraiser's data doesn't show anything like that. It's just, a simple code, what kind of property it is, if it's vacant or if it's residential or if it's commercial. So if it's vacant, that's pretty much all it says. It says it's vacant and it says the size of the lot, and then the location, et cetera. So if you were to go down that route, you'd probably have to, you'd have to acquire that data yourself through the city staff to, I guess, survey the different vacant lots.
So if we wanted to take out lots altogether, do you feel that there's enough legal support there to do that?
Essentially,
and is it possible to do it tonight, I guess, is the real question.
You could choose to exempt the vacant lots, and then I'm going to defer to Chris too to get his opinion on this.
Okay.
But essentially, by exempting them, that amount of money, that 6% of the the total revenue that's collected in the program would have to be funded by general revenues, the general fund.
Okay.
You couldn't. What that means is you can't take that burden and then spread it equally across the other properties that are in the assessment program. It has to be funded from another place.
Understood. Okay. Mr. Rowe, can you touch on that?
Yes, sir. And Pete's right. You as the city council are the ultimate arbiter of how the assessment methodology works. You want to make sure that it's based on a reasoned analysis such as that which you've been using all along, which Pete has updated for you. If you as the deciding body want to continue to exempt vacants or reduce the amount of the vacant from 76 to half that or whatever number you want to, you have the authority to do that. But to Pete's point, that will result in a little bit less revenue coming in that you can't then recapture by increasing everybody else's assessment.
Right. But we could, however, increase that much on the millage rate per se.
Yes, sir. You could make it up from some other revenue source beside the assessment.
Okay. All right. So that definitely seems to be the most in favor of at least the comments that we've heard tonight to reduce the vacant lots. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I was speaking to the man that's walking up there. You've already had your chance to speak. Name and address.
Valencia Wilson, 1445 South Carolina Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, do you all as the council have the option to set the ruling as far as I heard someone mention assessing people based on the size of the lot? Do you have that option?
Mr. Rowe, can you touch on that?
Yes, Mayor. The assessment methodology could assess vacant lots on the basis of size. In other words, if you're a larger parcel, you could end up paying more. However, at this point in time, this evening, it's virtually too late to do that. You have to basically make a decision tonight on whether or not to go with the assessment and what rate of assessment you want to go with.
Okay.
There's not really the means at this moment to figure out a new method of assessing the vacant parcels. What's before you is each vacant parcel is assessed a flat charge. And in theory, you could design it to where larger parcels pay more. We can't do that on the fly right now. That's something you might consider for next year. But right now, we simply can't do that.
Sure. So to substantially change the methodology, no,
Right
we
now.
want to simply cut out parts or reduce it as a whole, we can.
Because you haven't had time to advertise it and people don't know about it. Is that the
Right.
rationale behind it?
Right. We're basically up to now. Next year, of course, we could do it again.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's what they said. Yeah.
Donald Gordon, 918 South Palmer Avenue.
Yes.
My question is, how much in the reserve? And why can't we just take it out of the reserve and then bring this in back next year to take it to smaller lots and stuff?
Yeah.
But right now, this year, if we got the funding in reserve, why not take it out of there this year and then bring it back where he can weigh out these smaller lots or whatever?
Sure. Are you talking about just the lot portion or the entire?
I'm talking about all of it.
Yeah. So I mean, the entire portion, you're talking about $540,000, which is a significant portion.
I know our reserve got way more than that.
We do have more than that, but it is a significant portion of it that you would then have to make up later.
But that's what I'm saying. If we get through this year,
Yeah.
we take it out of the reserve. Okay, let's bring it back then where everybody have a better chance.
Sure.
Because it seemed like it's just brought up wham all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. I mean, it was done the same as every other year. I mean, you've been sitting here for a lot of years. You've seen how it goes. Every single year is the same schedule. So if people aren't paying attention, that's not necessarily this council's fault, but it does happen at the same time every single year.
Yeah, but I know a lot of them say they got their notices in August and y'all had the first meeting in July.
It is September.
So,
all
right. Well, that was my question.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Keep it down in the crowd, y'all. We're all in the same boat. We all want to get through this, so keep it down.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Johnson, 202 Williams Gray Court, Avon Park, Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we do this every year. I know you guys go through this every year, but I promise you, it is the first, I mean, we just got the letter. This particular letter in particular stating the amount. Now, did we get a letter before the one that everybody's holding the hand now? That didn't happen, right? I mean, you've discussed the budget. Am I correct?
August.
August is when we got this letter.
Yeah.
And we only got the one letter. Am I correct?
Do you have the, yep.
With the amount that says, I'm gonna keep my head this way, with the amount that says $76. Didn't we just get this?
This letter came out in August, right?
The property appraiser mails it. I think it was August 24th is the date that they were required to mail it.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. I got that. We got it one time, but we had two, this is our second time to talk about it. And that what you saying there?
Yes.
Second time. So, and this is the end of it tonight. You know, a decision gonna be made no matter what, right? I'm gonna go on record saying this. I'm gonna go on record saying this. I don't know how much is in the reserve. Somebody will know how much is in the reserve.
So we can figure out how much is in reserve.
At the end of 2024, with the budget that's in place, the general fund will have $7,142,030.
Okay, so with that being said, and thank you very much for that. With that being said, this can be handled from the reserves with no doubt. I just want to go on record saying I object to doing this, the property part of this, where you have to pay. It never happened before. This is the first year we're going to pay on taxes on something that has nothing on it at all. Come on, let's look at the reserve. That's all I'm saying. I'm done.
Yeah. So
let's look at it. Let's look at it.
The actual vacant property portion is $76,150.80. That's all that it amounts to for all the vacant properties. So I certainly would support cutting out the vacant property altogether because it's not enough to worry about, and we can fund that much out of reserves. However, I'm not in favor of spending $540,000 out of the reserves. I don't think that's a very wise decision for the longevity of the finances of the city. So, yes. You can. Is your microphone on there?
I'm sorry, it's not. How's that? Any better? All right. I make a motion that we go ahead and remove the fire assessment off for the vacant lots. And then we can take it out of the general fund or reserves or millage.
Can that be calculated for tonight so that we can change the resolution and pass the resolution tonight?
I guess the only thing that would have to be changed is the total revenue amount. The rates for the other properties would remain the same, but by getting rid of the vacant lot, it would be $76,000 less. Um,
76,150.80.
yeah.
Okay.
Sir.
So your motion is to take away the $76 for or to not assess vacant lots altogether, which would result in a reduction of fire assessment revenue by $76,150.80. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so that's a motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
Well, I have a question before we.
We have to second it, otherwise we can't ask
All right,
questions.
got it.
I'll second.
So we have a second on the motion. Go ahead and ask your question.
So does that mean that you're trying to throw out the $76 for the vacant lots, but keep it at 185 for the residential?
That's what the motion was, yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't make additional motions, but that is the motion that he made. So are you saying that you're trying to lower the fire assessment in a different way?
Well, this is just my idea.
Oh, shoot, sorry, y'all.
Okay, get rid of that, or like one of the participants said, instead of charging it all this year, take maybe a quarter this year until next year's budget and then advertise it and take the rest next year.
Would you be looking to also offset that with the millage rate?
No, the millage rate, I don't agree with the millage rate. I think that's too high right now.
You don't agree with no, not 6 mills. I'm saying the current millage rate, which is 4.368, I believe it is.
Do I agree with the current millage rate? Is that?
Are you would you offset, in other words, if let's just say, for example, you're taking 200,000 less in revenue on the fire assessment, would you be looking to offset that by raising the millage rate to make up for that 200,000? If we're just using broad numbers.
So are
would
you
just
saying
take-
that we absolutely have to raise the millage rate?
No. We can do, this council can spend anything that it wishes to. It's just a matter of what is fiscally responsible, right? So I don't feel that it's fiscally responsible to have a $540,000 hit to the reserves for the general fund. I don't think that's a wise decision. However, we don't necessarily have to do all of it. We can do any portion of it, as you say. It's all basically open, but the only requirement is we have to make a decision tonight. That's the only requirement.
Well, just because of the way things are going with the groceries, with the gas, with our own property, and our insurance, our homeowners insurance, this is a big hit. It really is a big hit. I would think maybe we could either lower the vacant lots and keep the projected amount at either maybe 42 or 45% instead of going to 54%.
Sir. Sure, we cannot talk from the crowd, you know that. So we are open for discussion at this point. We have a motion and a second on the floor. That doesn't mean that we have to vote on that. We can still ask questions. So you're talking about potentially reducing it from, it would already be reduced to 48%. So you want to reduce it further than that?
Well, right now we're at 140, correct?
No. The fire assessment
Fire Smith's at 140.
for vacant homes, or excuse me, for residential homes is
Right, for
$140. Yeah.
Okay, so instead of increasing it to the 54% for residential, we would keep it at maybe the 45%, which would make it 154, which would actually be what a $14 increase, rather a little than none at all.
Okay. So you can't do just the homes. It has to be across the board.
Okay, well, the across the board would be,
So we were at 41%. We're currently at 48% with the 6% gone for vacant lots. So where in between 41 and 48, I guess, is probably a good
I would say the 45.
at 45%. Okay. Is there any other comments on that?
The 45 with lots or 45 without lots?
Well, we already have a motion to take out lots altogether. So,
So you're wanting 45% without
Lots.
yeah, so that would reduce it an additional 3%.
And then next year, when we revisit the budget again, we would increase it up to where it should be.
So you're looking at a total of 16.
Because we could basically use our reserves as the money in there for a loan. until next year.
So that would reduce the total income another $35,790 and 87 cents. Okay. So we can proceed with the current motion and second. So we have a motion on the table with a second to reduce the vacant lots altogether. This would reduce the total income by 6%, which is $76,150.80. So we'll go ahead and call the roll on that one.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire.
Wait, I need to explain what
We're simply voting on removing the 6% for the vacant lots at this current time.
So if we vote no, then we can make a new motion.
If you vote no, or you can pass this and make another motion as an amendment as well.
So right
In other
now-
words, if your intention is to still assess vacant lots, then you would not want to approve this motion. If you do not want to assess vacant lots, you would approve this motion.
But we could still, if we approve this motion, we can still, so vacant lots would be out of the question. However, we can still adjust our
Correct.
percentage.
Correct.
With an amendment.
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire.
Yes.
Councilmember McCure.
Excuse me. If we vote yes, it's to take the lots out.
Take lots out, yes. And then if you want
Yes.
to reduce it, we can still.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now your intention before was to decrease it an additional 3%.
Right. I would like to take it to, I would like to make a motion to actually take it to the 45%
For all the remaining
for
categories.
the yes.
Okay, so we have that motion. Do we have a second? There's a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions?
The motion is for which percentage, Shelley?
45.
To go to 45%. It's currently at 48 once the vacant lots have been removed. This would remove an additional 3% or $35,000.
So the final assessment would be $154.
Right, but what would the total revenue be?
It-
Would be the 323.
I could speak to that.
Yep.
So the total revenue, under that scenario where the residential rate would be at 154 and the other rates are proportional, according to the allocation. And then the vacant is removed, the total revenue would be about $1 million even approximately. And that is, an increase of about 275,000 over the prior year. So the budget shortfall you were referring to before was 540. So that's about half of the budget shortfall. So the other half would be made up from other sources to the city's discretion.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be closer to 1,157,000.
The numbers I'm getting, I mean, and we can always finalize the revenue number after the fact. It's the rates that are more importantly adopted by resolution. So the rates were shown in the table that was prepared with the different cost recovery levels. So we would just you would just adopt those rates minus the vacant.
Okay. All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Further questions on this motion?
So we're thinking we're gonna be short about 200,000,
There's no way. It's right at 100,000.
right at 100,000
Yeah.
being short.
It's 115,000.
Have you got those figures too, Melanie?
Total revenue. $1,269,180. Deduct 6% and deduct 3%.
So total revenue at 45% is $101,063,222.
There you go.
If you take out the 64 vacant lot or $64 of the 992 lots, you get
Vacant lots are already removed. You have to remove that entirely. That was the first motion.
Yes.
So you would deduct,
62,496 that you subtract.
Out of the 1,663,000.
okay, so the motion is for 3%. So whatever the final number ends up being is fine. So is there any questions or changes that people are thinking of for the 3% motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Is there any other? Okay, is there any other motions on the fire assessment that anyone wishes to make or discuss?
Mayor, this is Chris Rowe. I would just suggest there be a formal motion to approve the annual rate resolution subject to the modifications you just approved.
Does anyone care to make that motion?
So move.
We have a so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any questions on the current motion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. All right, so the fire assessment has been set. Now we'll move on to item number 11. This will be the employee health insurance selection. The new HR director, Denise.
All right, so for this fiscal year, the city currently has 80 active employees and 3 dependents in our health insurance plans. Out of those 83 members, 13% have ongoing claims, and 6% of those are high dollar claims. The top claim being well over $300,000. Considering the claims detail, initially Florida Blue did not quote us for a price, and Cigna declined to quote. We currently are using Aetna for our health insurance. And given the claims history, they came in with a very high renewal rate increase. 2 of the tiers that we offer were 46% increase for the health benefits, and the middle deductible plan was at 27%. United came in with a very aggressive quote at an increase, but then last minute Florida Blue came in and basically blew them out of the water, bringing us a annual decrease in the pricing.
Wow.
So, yeah, we were budgeted, I think, for 9% increase,
Yeah.
and they came in with a annual decrease of roughly 5%. And because of the late notice, they gave us, or are giving us, right, Danny? They're giving us an additional 2% decrease.
Wow.
So given the decrease, we were offering 3 different plan options. We would like, as the staff, to move to a 2-plan option, keeping the high deductible plan, but also keeping the plan that benefits the employee with a richer plan option. If we go that route, we will have a annual decrease of $29,948.40.
Okay.
Does that include dental and vision?
Dental and vision is under Guardian, and they did not give a rate increase, so we're just going to keep that as is. And that's 100% employee paid
Okay.
on those coverages.
So on the new sheet that you gave us,
Yes,
this here, that's the last option on that sheet, right?
yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions on these plans?
I have a question on the plan for the Florida Blue, the middle tier. What, can you tell me what page I can see the benefits? I saw it the other day.
Yes, that was the most recent email that came out yesterday.
It's on a separate renewal.
And it was just a 1-page document.
This is, it was a separate.
Oh, I must have missed that.
Yeah, well, it was a separate one. And if we go with the richer plan, the difference between the middle tier option and the richer plan is urgent care is only $55 as opposed to $100. The specialist visits $50 as opposed to $85. The primary care visits 25 as opposed to 35. And then the overall benefit of the labs and everything is pretty much identical from that point. But the co-insurance comes in on the middle tier after the deductible is met, and the deductible is 2,500. Whereas the richer plan, it's not.
Okay. Any other questions on the health insurance?
No, anytime it goes down, that's a good option.
Yeah, so to be clear, would it be not only reducing the 54,000 in addition to the 29,000, or is it just simply 29,000 below what was budgeted?
It's 29,000 below what we currently pay.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
We actually had budgeted.
We
Yes,
budgeted
so-
a 9%
Yeah.
increase, but this is 29,000 below what we currently are paying.
So the total decrease from what we budgeted is 98,000.
Jeez.
Which is
Almost.
almost what was done on the fire assessment there. That worked out. God bless America. The so to our insurance person back there,
Yes,
any insight into why this happened and if that would continue or?
He's work. Breaker. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm usually the bearer of bad news, and I thought it's hard with United Healthcare that was it would not move.
Mhm.
Aetna's gone through a pretty major transition. CVS took over, and it's affected small groups and large groups alike across the state of Florida. It's been very interesting. They would not basically even return the phone call when we asked for some relief. United came in firing really hard, and we didn't get a decline at first from Florida Blue. We just didn't get a response. And so after 3 weeks, we assumed we were about to get a letter, and we did get a letter from Cigna. But Florida Blue came in firing hard. They are making a real push on municipalities across the state right now.
Nice.
Their biggest competitor is United Healthcare. So it was pretty interesting. They didn't see the rates from United. They saw nothing and came in that strong. So we did put some pressure on them because they were so late through my corporate folks. And maybe that helped. I don't know, but I was so excited when I got them. I was kind of scared to deliver them. And she had already put the package together for you guys. So I called and said, I got good news and bad news. I got something better, but now you get to restructure the whole package that's already gone out to everybody. So it was a good, bad thing, but I would just hope that some of your claims calm down because you've got about 5 really serious claims rolling in here. And if they'll calm down, I think we'll be in good shape next year, but we all need to pray for these folks and hope that they get healthy for sure.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
I just want to see how much the employees pay. The section part is in this one. So they're going to be paying between 459 and 601, depending on what plan we go with. That's their portion, or what's their portion?
Correct. The city contributes the 60130 if we go with the richer plan. And then if they add dependents or a spouse, then it's the difference between that and that next rate that they pay.
Okay.
So doctor visits for primary care are, third, so they have, okay, I see that now. All right.
The other benefit too with Florida Blue is you don't have to go to a primary care physician. If you need a specialist, you go. You don't have to do the referral process either.
We had some complaints last year, if y'all recall. There was some comments made that some folks weren't happy with the Aetna network in this area. We will not have that problem with Florida Blue.
Florida Blue is the most widely accepted in this area for sure.
In the country, really. I mean, United's right there with them. But United, to get to the 10.5, 12-point rate increase, which was way below the 49 that we were getting from Aetna, but still it was 12 points, was to move to a smaller network as well. So I was a little worried that we'd have similar issues as we had with Aetna. When I told United that it was the Blue Options Network with Blue Cross, he was like, okay, I'm out. I can't compete any longer because this is all the flexibility your employees could ever want in the world. They don't have to go through a primary care doctor if they don't want to. It's all the hospitals in the state. I mean, it's everything that you'd ever want. And for the most part, those plans are a little bit richer than what you have currently. So none of this makes really good sense, but we're going to ride the wave, I think.
We'll just thank the Lord for it.
Yep, that's it. Count our blessings.
You think they could start selling car insurance? That would be great.
All right, so we would be looking for a motion for the Florida Blue eliminating military and moving employees to richer plan option. This would be with cost with additional 2% discount. The one resulting in an annual decrease of $29,948.40 over a current rate. Does anyone care to make that motion?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions on the insurance plans?
Yeah, so the reason that we're gonna go with the richer plan as opposed to the one that's decreasing at 47,000? Why, what is the difference between those two?
Our human resources will go over the benefits of the plan. Basically, it is a benefit to the employees. It's a better plan than what they
Is this the
had.
plan that you're talking, the decrease of 29,000, is that the one that has where they can go to any doctor for a set amount, not a percentage after the
Correct.
deductible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the difference. It's cheaper co-pays for primary specialists, for urgent care is cheaper.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's altogether a better
And
plan.
it's a better plan and it's still a decrease this year.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other questions on the health plan? I'm hearing some chatter. Do we have any questions or? Okay. Seeing none. All right. We have a motion and a second. We'll call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire.
Yes.
Councilmember McCure.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I have a question for Danny. Danny, this has nothing to do with the rates for personal insurance for anybody else, right? This is just a group insurance for a city.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, item number 12, we have the FAM management fee increase request. We have JT Clark with us. JT, good luck.
Bar's been set high today. Yeah, is it? Okay.
So we have everything in front of us. Gave us a pretty good packet. Obviously, you're looking for an increase in the management fee. I think all of us kind of understand what you're looking for there. Obviously, you have an opportunity now to kind of go over why you can justify that fee and anything you'd like to present to us. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Yeah, over the last 18 months, I think we've done a pretty good job trying to get the place reorganized, readministered. Been able to get north of $10 million worth of projects for the airport. 5 million plus was not on the current work program, which this in all of that within our first year on site. What we're asking for today, keep in mind that you can be reimbursed for this, and that is part of the AIPP. So whatever monies on an annual basis that the city does put into the airport does have to be repaid back to your general fund over, and in our current agreement, it's within the first 10 years.
Now, would that be through you guys or would that be through the AIPP?
That would be through us. So the revenues are out there. Yes, sir. Just like actually the management fees to date, we have to pay you back on all those as well. And I promise you, you have a fine finance director, Melody, who will make sure that she collects what she needs to for your general revenue fund.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was unaware of that fact that we would actually be getting that money back that we're spending in the interim time.
That was actually news to me too. When we did submit the application, the 160,000 that's been paid to us to date through the 10,000 a month is listed as an advance to the airports. So we did discuss it. I understand why it's there. The city has the right. I think city has the right to go back 6 years for any expenditures. And so as we go through this process, we will still be obligated to return those funds. I just know that at the current 120,000 rate, given the lifts that we're trying to do for the economic development and, you know, with the state legislator to try to make this path more easy, not just for Avon Park in the future, but other rural municipalities. So we can set policy on the front side instead of making it up, you know,
Bad microphone.
It's because everybody's staring at me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't expect it to take this long. You guys didn't expect it to take this long, but you know, and I hope our next session, The goal is to bring another 3 million that was not on the work program, and then also create Avon Park Airport as a case study to where all agencies will have to get into a cost share program for the development of the asset. But it does take some time to put these together, and we're happy to do it. And yeah,
Sure. So as far as the reimbursement to the city, how did that come up? Is that something that you guys found, or?
well, in the application, in the Federal Register notice, it does say that the city of Avon Park can look back 6 years. And that is a negotiated item that the private operator can choose to, or, that's a negotiated item in the contract. Since we have been here for a year, the management fee that we've been paid to date is listed as an advance from the city of Avon Park to the airport, and as such must be reimbursed within the first 10 years, just like the environmental problem spills that the general fund was borrowed from, the sanitation fund.
Right.
We have to pay those back in 10 years, and so would be any advances. So even let's say we're 7 years down the road and we have a particular project that might need city help on it to get it across the finish line, whether that, let's say it's a land acquisition or whatever, those will still over time have to be returned back to the general fund of the city.
I would just simply say, I'm not as familiar with the contract as Lowell is, but you're expert in that area of finance. You probably should ask him that question if you want to verify that, because I'm not as familiar with the contract as they are.
Sure. Yeah, it blew me away. That's the first I've heard of it. So,
well, we were shocked when we saw it too, but then it made sense why it's in there. And Melanie knows that it's in there.
I would have to also defer to Lowell.
Sure. We'll ask him. We'll verify. No big deal.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the actual amount of funding requests that you are requesting is?
25,000 a month rather than the 10,000 a month. That was our initial inquiry when we first started down this path. We knew that it would take that much. And even if it was only done for a year and we revisit this next budget cycle, assuming that we haven't already closed the long-term AIPP agreement.
So you're requesting 300,000 annually instead of the 120,000 annually?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have a question for you, JT.
Yes, sir.
We're looking over here at the monthly wages for all these people on there. Do you actually have a monthly payroll where you all receive a paycheck monthly or weekly or biweekly?
We are 100% employee owned and operated, so no.
So the 10,000 that you get from management fee, none of that goes towards paying you guys a salary?
No, 7,800 of that goes to insurance a month, and then 2,200, the remainder just goes to whatever the airport needs are at that time.
So basically, what we're paying you doesn't really pay for you guys being out there doing your job, your management, including getting the $3 million grant.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So all of these wages that you have listed as wages are just based on, it says 70% of comparable airport wages. So you guys have not actually been paid this amount on a monthly basis. You're just saying that's basically what you're worth.
Yeah, if you look at the market rate, yeah, we had to do a public records request. So we did 3 peer airports for this process. And the peer airport for an airport of this size has closer to $1 million a year in payroll versus what this airport currently provides in payroll.
Right.
Do we have
These are
Lowell
not-
on our Zoom? We don't. Is there any way that you guys could call him and see if we can get on?
Basically, I'm trying to say, even through the FAM, you guys don't really receive a paycheck on a monthly basis. Is that correct?
Not through this venture, no.
No. So basically, you're out there working almost for free.
Well, we signed up for it, but yes, you're right.
Okay.
It is.
All right, so I think everybody knows where I stand, so I think that's something maybe that I didn't know about, so now you all rest of you know about it, so I'll let you all speak from there.
All right, I got a couple of questions.
Yes,
while you're
ma'am.
trying to get hold of Lowell. So you said the city should possibly or will be reimbursed for anything to do with the AIPP. You guys have itemized things on here that you have paid towards that. So will you also be reimbursed once the grant comes through?
So in the AIPP, we do need to reconcile what the private operator has spent, but per the PGL guidelines, the FAA does not recognize us as a reimbursable entity. They do recognize the city is, but currently we did not amend that in the FAA reauthorization, so this year and everything up to date, we will not be reimbursed for. No,
Would that be something you could apply for next year?
no.
Okay.
And that's part of our bill that we're going to file on the state level, is that there is a fiscal bill separate from the federal AIPP that would reimburse the private operator if it is too much of a strain on the local municipality.
Okay, and then my other question is for the $3 million grant, and then you also have listed over 10 million in projects. A lot of times with the grants, they have overhead that's also included in that. Is there any part of those grants that is overhead that would pay you guys?
Not currently. When we're under the management agreement, you guys could request the administration fee, but we are responsible for that project, but we have 100% of liability and no reward to actually take on that project until the AIPP is closed. So there is no way for us to recoup at this time. Now, when the AIPP is yes, and then there is a way that we could be remunerated for our efforts. Yes.
You can be paid back for those.
Not what you see there. Now, on the, like, let's say the work program for the $10 million in projects that we expect in 2024, we can get administrative fees when we are the sponsor, but as a manager, we cannot. So if we never, for whatever reason, are able to see this agreement consummate, then we are out all that money. And then the current, what you see there, we're out that already. So even if we didn't come to an arrangement, we would have lost several $100,000 on this venture because we can't recoup those costs.
Okay. And then I have one more question. I don't want you to feel like I'm picking on you guys because
Wait, school mascot is the pandas. I'll never forget it again.
good. Done. All right. So you have 3 separate companies that are listed, and a lot of your employees work for all 3 of the companies. Is that correct? You got Florida Airport Management. You've got like ROCI Group or something like that.
Rossi.
And then you've got the hemp manufacturing.
American Hemp Manufacturing. Yes, ma'am.
So all of these, what do those other 2, how do they play into the airport?
Well, part of that is what brought us to Avon Park to begin with is the USDA secured us for north of $250 million in loan guarantees to develop new biotechnology that could support new crops. But we needed to find the right place where we're going to build these facilities. So we have a vested interest into making this project work as a sustainable or suitable location for the biotechnology center.
Okay, so the usage of the airport is actually helping you with the other 2 companies. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, one's a holding company, so it doesn't benefit. It's just a holding company we have other companies that are not listed with you as well. But as far as this venture is concerned, Florida Airport Management is the primary operating company, and we have not brought the other firm in because it just hasn't been the right time to bring that firm in.
Okay, I guess my question just is, I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. So you've got all of these employees listed as 40 hours, yet you're running 3 companies. So I guess I'm just trying to see what percentage is dedicated to the airport. Are they all 3 working together? Like because you can't spend 40 hours in 3 separate companies. So
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
Trying to
So
figure out.
AHM has its own employees as well that are separate from anybody that's attached to that list. The Rossi Group has a separate deck of individuals. And we just recently launched Biotech Applied Research, which is a new nonprofit that was launched. So none of those are listed in that list. So you only have the Florida Airport Management folks.
I thought there were a couple individuals that worked for both. Yeah, Michael Powell, it's got him as vice chairman.
Well, he's
Rosa
chairman of the
Group,
holding company because he's got a vested interest in FAM.
Vice chairman of the American Hemp as well. Which it's fine if there's carryover. I'm just trying to understand what percentage is dedicated just to the airport, or if they are all 3 tied together. That's just what I'm trying to understand.
I understand. So the other ones really cannot become functional here at Avon Park until FAM is complete. So the efforts are focused on Florida Airport Management and getting the appropriate dollars to the site so that this can be a successful launch.
But if this is successful, then it provides success for your other 2 companies.
Well, it does, but it's it's a net zero for, because we still, even if the other company comes here, we still have to pay fair market value. So there's not a discount because the other one comes here. It's how do we create a national P3 model that can support the lift. So the benefit is that we can align the appropriate funding agencies towards one location rather than spreading those agencies.
Okay.
I hope I'm answering it.
Sort of, kind of. But we're still the pandas. No.
JT, I got one follow-up question for you then, please then. So basically, even if you don't get this lease, the city of Avon Park and its airport still getting the $3 million grant for access to the airport, correct?
That's correct. Plus the 10 million in other work program and unwork program related.
So all that work that you've done to get us to that direction, one way or another, it's gonna be a positive for the city, whether you get this lease or not.
That's correct.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so we couldn't get a hold of Lowell, right?
No.
I left him a message.
Okay.
He gets it within the next couple minutes to call back.
Okay. So before any final decisions were made on it, I definitely want to hear from Lowell, just to confirm a few things and hear his opinion on it. But, I mean, I would go back to not discounting anything that you guys have done out there. It's just that if there was no AIPP program, there is no way that we would be even thinking of the idea of paying $300,000 for any firm to manage the airport, because it's just not a level that we would want to be at, right? So though certainly we appreciate the Rockstar staff that is out there, I can't see justifying spending $300,000 on a firm that there's no way would be out there if there wasn't an AIPP program going.
You're right. And that's fundamentally the problem with how these GA airports are ran. So, I mean, you're proving the point is, and again, this is not a problem just to Avon Park. This is the current financial model on how to manage these assets do not exist appropriately, or why you pass a master plan, but you can never execute your master plan in a 20-year period because there's not enough attention.
It's not realistic for a small town airport that's multiplied across the entire nation. That's why most small town airports are in almost the exact scenario that we're in.
That's correct.
Yeah. And occasionally they hit it out of the park because development goes into that area, or, something turns into Orlando, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So again, I mean, it just kind of comes back to the point of how do we justify it? The fact that we could potentially get that money back, obviously, is big news to me. I just want to, I definitely want to verify that that is absolutely the case, and what mechanisms are there to do that, and what recourses and things like that. But obviously, we don't want to. We just went through round and round for hours talking about how we're spending city funds, how we're spending tax dollars, right? So we don't want to, potentially waste, an additional $180,000 if there's no guaranteed way to get paid back, or there's no guaranteed benefit, or, we have to be able to justify that on paper as to why we're making that investment, right? So we also don't have a guarantee of when this AIPP program is going to come to a conclusion. It also could result in a conclusion, a non-favorable conclusion, I guess.
It's going to come through.
Unlikely, but possible.
And as a matter of fact, Melody, a good update is the FRN has been issued, as I've been told. So we have a docket number and the Federal Register number, and it's on you guys' website as well as regulations.gov. So the timeline has officially started. So as long as
was there a time limit on that process?
So the from front to back, the whole process statutorily is 120 days.
Okay.
So that 120-day ticker has begun.
They have to give you an answer within 120 days.
Well, 30 days for pre-app, 60 days for public comment window, 30 days for record of decision.
Got it.
So at the end of the 120 days, could it still be for recommendations to change this, and then we start all over again with another 120?
No.
It's a yes or no.
I really think we're at the final bill lap of this. I think the only thing outstanding is our MAI appraisal, and the survey, which
they're currently doing that.
They're currently doing that. So I think we hope that we still close this by the first of the year. But we, as the private operator that has put all the risk, we would love to, for a little bit of help, to continue the mission.
Sure. I understand your viewpoint for sure. We just need to verify the details. That's all. So, as far as timeline to do that, obviously this will be something that we would want to budget. And we're looking at approving the budget now. We could make a budget addendum,
At any time.
at any time. So we need to get a hold of Lowell, obviously.
He's called.
Okay.
Hello.
All eyes are on you.
Hey, you want to, there's just a question about the things.
Councilman McGuire, I love tests, so I can't wait for Lowell to give me 100% grade on the said question.
Yeah.
I'd like to make one comment to everybody in the audience. First of all, I want to thank all of you coming for tonight. And more than that, I'd like to invite you all back on a regular basis, especially starting January. I'd like to see all your happy faces there. That way you'll be more involved. And you can speak more times to come up and if opinions go on, whether it's running of the city or when it comes in June, July, when we start the budget, you guys could be actively involved then. So I like the idea. Part of the reason we made the trim notices as large as they did, because I was hoping that a lot of you people would show up. And so thank you for showing up and thank you for expressing your opinions. I think it made a difference tonight. I hope you all realize that. So I hope and plan, please come back on a regular basis to our meetings on a regular monthly basis, because I definitely would like to hear all the citizens' opinions instead of just have 2 or 3 that normally show up. So thanks again for coming tonight.
Lowell's gonna participate via Zoom.
Okay.
Nobody clap.
They don't like you, Jim.
I gave you a clap.
I know one person does, and he left.
Lowell, you there?
He's connected to audio. He should be connected now.
Melody, I'm here.
All right. Have you been briefed as to what's been discussed yet?
Just briefly.
Okay, so we have FAM here. They're requesting additional funds for the management agreement. They're currently at 120,000 per year. They're requesting 300,000 per year. So as part of that, they've submitted different rates of pay, different hours work, things like that, as well as some of the grants that they've also been able to get for the city. So what we're looking for from you, obviously, would be an opinion on that, as well as there's a new provision that they're saying that the city could actually be reimbursed for the money that we've spent on them thus far. Is there any other details, JT, on that portion that you want to give Lowell, particularly as to where that provision is? Or
Yes, Lowell, he's talking about how the city has the right to get their advances back for the last 6 years. So the management fee to date was included into what we owe back over the next 10 years to the general fund or to the city.
Well, it'll go back. There's really 3 components that can be reimbursed. The 2 loans that were made previously, and also any advances that the city has made to the airport, which would include the management fee, both current, past, and any future.
okay, and those funds will be paid by the airport or by FAM directly?
They would be paid from airport revenues.
Okay.
To the extent that revenues are what we'll call positive. In other words, there's excess revenues.
Right. So only if the airport is making a profit would we be able to recoup those funds.
Now, there is another way. The airport would be paying an annual rent based off the appraisal, and you could reimburse yourself from that rent as well.
Okay. And we won't know what that is until the appraisal is done, right?
That's correct, until the final appraisal.
So Lowell, does it matter that, how much their salaries are out there at the airport, or can they just set them at whatever they want, as much as they want?
Generally, FAA is going to be looking at what we would call reasonableness. So they would look at generally comparable airports. And I know it's a little hard to compare because most comparable airports are government run. But there are comparables out there. So the answer would be you can't just set it at whatever you want. You need to have it with some sort of backup to support that. So because FAA wants to ensure that, in other words, whatever rates you're setting and charging for your users are reasonable, and that those reasonable rates would be supporting the airport activity, which would include the salaries.
So theoretically, if the salaries were so high that no revenue was ever made, the city would never get paid back.
Potentially that could be the case. But again, in the agreement, we did set up parameters for that, which would be comparing to peer airports. And I'm sure if they were exorbitant, FDOT and FAA would have comments about that the city commission could review and object to.
Yeah, but this, the lease that we have right now that they're wanting an increase on is that provision is not in that. So what we're looking at is a 6-year look back, may not be something we can do. Is that correct?
No, it's not a 6-year look back. We're waiving that provision. Now, if you're looking at the current agreement, or are you looking at the AIPP agreement?
Looking at the current agreement that they're for their management.
Yeah, the current agreement, that is correct. It would be a 6-year look back. It's the AIPP agreement that would waive that look back provision as far as the time period.
So once we enter into the AIPP, it would waive this current agreement. Is that right?
It would essentially replace it.
Okay. So if we didn't collect the funds by then, we would not have the ability to do so?
No, you would. Okay. They'll roll into the AIPP agreement.
But they'll be looking at comparable airports as to reasonableness.
That's correct. In other words, their concern would be, you don't want to just inflate whatever the costs are, whether it's salaries or other things, building improvements or whatever, to the point that the airport is no longer affordable to the users. So that would be the concern.
I guess
they would be looking at.
What I'm looking for is a likelihood that these funds would be recouped by the city.
Well, it depends on the growth. If the airport and FAM can grow the airport and increase what we will call the user rents, there is the potential that it could be recouped. Yes.
I have one question, Garrett.
Go ahead.
So JT mentioned that it has to be paid back within 10 years. Is it paid back within 10 years of them taking over, or paid back within 10 years of becoming revenue positive?
It's in the AIPP agreement. It's set up where operating cost, essentially what you would be doing is making an advance, okay, similar to a loan. And the way it's set up in the AIPP agreement is that would be amortized over a 10-year payback period. So it would essentially be 10 years from each year that it happens. So in other words, you make an advance this year, that would be amortized over 10 years. You make an advance next year, that would be amortized over 10 years. If that makes sense.
Understand. Okay.
But it still has to be revenue positive for us to see any of that?
Yes.
Well, no, you're going to be paid the annual rent. So you can reimburse yourself from the annual rent to the extent it's available as your first call. And then it would be revenue positive after that. Yes.
And we don't know what the annual rent is going to be, or even a ballpark.
Well, the number we had previously, JT, from the original appraisal was around 60 to 70,000 a year. But we don't know until we get the final appraisal, because that one was 2 years plus old, which is dated from the standpoint of FAA. So we would be getting a new appraisal that would update that.
Yeah. So I guess we would be looking at, once you guys actually get in there, do you think that you will be looking for additional funds from the city?
No, because we don't want to depend on the city for anything other than the asset, right? And then we
Yeah.
take it from there.
The whole point is for the airport to be revenue positive from the get-go. That was the point.
That's correct. But I will say, even on the general, we've already raised the revenues out there by at least 40%. And when the rest of them, when the timing is right and the rest of the tenants are paying fair market value, it'll recoup the 120,000 that that's in discussion. So we are being there on site, or the attention of this AIPP. So not just us, but the consultants, all the city administration, the spotlight that we've been able to put on this airport has increased the revenue quite a bit out there, and will continue to do so.
Through fuel sales and usage and things like that.
Right. And just the tenants paying their fair market value. Yes, sir.
I have one more question. Wasn't there a part of the agreement that said they could defer their rent if they contributed a certain amount or they added to the airport?
I believe there was a provision for your investments out there. You could defer your rent.
So if they're deferring their rent, then we
No,
would not.
no, not in the current agreement. We had a discussion about that. And JT, if you recall, we laid out, revenue sharing or taking that off, and essentially doing no deferred rent and starting rent. So the current agreement has rent starting at day one.
Okay. JT, is that to your
Yes.
remembrance, or?
Ms. McGuire, you may be thinking about the rent credits. So if we do spend whatever that figure is, that will reconcile annually at our annual budget. And so we have to come during y'all budget cycle every year and make sure that everything's copacetic, that we pay all of our bills on time. You know exactly what the financial performance is. If this advancement is made to us today, then that'll be accounted for annually. And
So
Melanie
a
knows
rent
exactly where-
credit still means we're not getting a payment?
No.
No, a rent credit would only happen to the extent that capital improvements are made by FAM with FAM dollars.
Okay.
Because it's still your asset. So if we renovate the FBO as a simple one, right? We're just not going to take the building with us should we part. So
Right.
that-
But it's still not necessarily a cash revenue back to general fund, right?
Right.
So we're looking at expending general fund dollars.
Correct.
On this. That's the only option. So what we're concerned about is getting those revenues back to general fund. Now, we do understand that, chances are there's going to be millions of dollars of improvements out there at the airport, but that doesn't necessarily result in a usable income to general fund is kind of the issue that we're at. And you agree that could be the case. If you're out there, if you get a grant to build some huge building or something that's worth millions of dollars, that's going to be a lot of rent credits that would take the place of cash flow coming back to general fund.
Yeah, well, I would say on that in the grants in the work program that we've already got scheduled, y'all would recoup all your costs that y'all are advancing to us today just by your fees that you can administer for that. So we got north of $10 million in grants coming in 2024. You've already got 300,000 in administrative fees that are coming to the city if we can't be there. So
I guess that's what we would be looking for from the city side is, are you familiar with how we would actually be able to recoup those funds through admin fees? And are you comfortable with the statement that JT's making that we would be able to get those funds?
I am not. I would defer to Lowell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lowell, same question.
I sent you the salaries that they're requesting.
Yeah, I don't think I got the attachment, Jerry, but let me couch it in these terms, okay? If FAM is able to accomplish what they hope to and to invest in the airport and make improvements, there should be revenues generated. That's not a guarantee, That's their goal. If they can't accomplish that, it's going to be very difficult because right now it is not revenue positive. And even with the increased rents, it's probably not gonna fully reimburse itself.
Okay.
And it's just gonna have to grow to get to that point. So that's really more of a JT question, but you know, the good news is they're working to make improvements, as you've seen. And the goal is they're going to continue to do that. Now, that's a long process. That's not going to happen overnight. It's very hard to get federal grants. It's very hard to get state grants. You should be able to get some, but getting, you know, tremendously large ones are going to be few and far between.
Well, we'll put it to you plain and simple. Lowell, do you think it is a good idea for us to increase the amount that we're paying them to $300,000 per year?
That's a big ask. I mean, I haven't seen the numbers. My question to you would be, what's the bang for the buck? What are you getting out of that increase?
Right. And that's part of what we're hoping that you can help identify.
Well, you know, if you're getting the same service you're getting today, that's hard to support.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is there's not been tremendous growth in the airport yet. In other airports, that would be a pretty high amount of salaries. So, you know, if you would like, we would be happy to look at some comparisons. And I would hope, you know, JT, were you able to give them any comparisons?
Well, we've been providing comparisons for quite some time to this airfield, but I'd also pose a question, since it seems that when we approached this city, there was not even an economic development officer here to approach, right? And so that, even if you had an economic development officer, that role would be anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000. We are also taking that on because that is what is required. The public relations or the governmental affairs, the only way that you get $10 million in a work program in 1 year, and Lowell, you just said it's hard to do. It is hard to do, but we made the state budget last year. We'll get another $3 million from the upcoming state budget, I'm confident. So based on the work that we've accomplished to date, you may not see vertical buildings out there to date, but as a manager, we would not put vertical buildings out there. And we have not been able to execute leases for the 2 flight schools or the steel manufacturing company because we have not had a lease for them to sign. So,
well, JT, I understand what you're saying, but you know, part of what you're saying is economic development, which is really not the airport's role. And you know, if the city wants to fund that, that's great. But you know, that's kind of, I think, you know, if we lay that out for FA and FDOT, they're going to go, look, that's really not part of the airport.
But
so
that's not a regulatory call from the FAA or FDOT. That's a city call. And I was just using that as a comparison.
Okay. So Lowell, do you think that this is something that you would be able to shed more light on if you had a chance to look at it? Or do you think that you've said your piece and we should make a decision?
I mean, certainly, I mean, I'll say this, there's been a little disagreement about peer airports to compare to. DOT has given some peer airports to compare to. JT has not agreed with those. We asked JT to get with DOT and see if they could come to some agreement on that. And I don't know that that's been resolved, JT, on what those.
What hasn't been resolved is the intent of the airport. You can justify, for example, Wauchula being a peer airport in size or amenities, but you can't judge a peer airport on what the operations or what your development goals are. So if you go to Wauchula, they do not have any representation out there whatsoever. They don't even fund Jet A. They don't even have Jet A services. So my issue is not in land mass or amenities so much so as if it's not a priority to take care of their airport because they can't, that's one thing. But to say that we're not a peer airport, to judge a peer airport solely based on personnel or what that pay should be personnel, I disagree with that. And further to my point, if you, and we've talked about this, Lowell, the city does not actually record how many people go out there to cut the grass on a weekly basis, right? Because you're sharing resources. So when we talk about peer airports, nobody's taken into account the shared resources of that municipality for that said project, because that's just not how things are monitored.
Okay.
So no, we do not agree with the peer airports.
Okay. So I guess the largest question that we have for staff currently is the admin fees of the grants that are out there. So does this council feel comfortable making a decision now, or do we feel like we need more time to make that decision?
I just think they deserve to get paid for being out there. I mean, he basically said they're not getting paid. We just turn around and we're about to go through our budget where we're giving all of our employees an increase. We're increasing the pay of all of our foremen and supervisors for all the work they do. The airport has always lost money. And so they're basically improving the money. They're getting their grants. I think they deserve something for them to get paid for the 3 or 4 people that are out there. So they have some kind of an income that they're not getting paid right now. That's just my only opinion is that, like you said, should they get paid for the work that they do? I think that they should get paid something. I'm not necessarily agreeing with their figures, but I'm thinking that, even if you gave them, half of what they asked for, I mean, you're only talking 4 people, you're only paying them $2,000 a month. I mean, that's not even.
Yeah, but the real question is, would we have them at all if there was not the AIPP program that was on the horizon?
No,
The answer is
we
obviously
would have
no.
an airport that nobody would go to, that would not increase any more people adding to there. And we'd continue to lose money every year. That's what we've always done, is lose money. That's the problem. If they turn around and they've already increased the revenue already, if they ever get the agreement to have the 2 schools out there, they'll make money. So
But those 2 schools are not going to generate $180,000 a year in extra revenue to the
I
city.
just said, why don't we just take half of that?
I mean, how much are the proposed leases we're talking about with the 2 schools?
It's not so much the lease for the facility. I will say
whatever revenue the city would get from it.
Aero Service is looking to invest $2 million in the airport alone, plus base 30 aircraft out there. So you would make the revenue on the fuel cells would cover that alone. But to go back to your point of AIPP or P3, in the P3 agreement that we started on originally, we would have been assigned the rents and the fuel. The rents and the fuel do come around to 25,000 a month. And that's what we knew comfortably as an organization, that we could follow through with what our goals are at that rate before AIPP even came into the picture. So at that, I mean, but that would be amending our management agreement to assign us the leases currently, which is what we really wanted from day one, and assign us the fuel, because then we are responsible for our own destiny, if you will, at that point. To date, there has not been a comfortableness with amending the management agreement. So we thought it would be easier to amend the fee, account that for what could be reimbursable in the future, rather than, but if y'all want to assign the leases today and assign the fuel cells today, because we haven't even been compensated for pumping any fuel at midnight before. And when we do answer every single call, and we're happy to do it. That's why we're here. But I mean, I just thought it'd be easier to do the budget this way rather than the whole lease structure and the assignment of fuel cells.
Okay. If I could ask a quick question. Melody, what is the revenue for the airport current year to date?
Stand by.
Pardon?
Stand by.
Okay.
Yeah.
JT, while we're waiting, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many new tenants have you acquired in the last years? Or we can't acquire them because we don't have enough buildings for them?
So we have signed up at least. Yeah, we've signed up 11 new leases and T hangar rents since we've arrived, but we have 45 still on the waiting list. We also did just reapply to FDOT for $2.3 million in the deferred grant agreement. Well, that 2.3 million will be on us to execute, to move the hangar that's currently on the apron that should have been moved. So that's, another liability that we're taking on because we know we'll eventually close. But
Approximately how much revenue do those 11 new businesses bring to the city? Average.
only about 3,000 a month for the T hangers. But the steel manufacturing plant that wants to come out should be anywhere from 60 to 150,000 a year. They haven't determined their land size, nor have we been able to secure them as a tenant out here 100%. Plus their location wants to be where the brownfield is, out there where the old city landfill is. So they will likely spend $20,000 an acre remediating that land, which we'll have to account for in their long-term lease.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a few other items that we absolutely have to get done tonight. So does the council want to table this till our next meeting? So we've had some more time to look over it. Is there something actionable that we realistically are going to find out that would make the council feel more comfortable to make a decision on this, or what?
The only thing I just don't agree with Jim's assessment of them, of treating them as employees, only because if you own a business, your how you recoup your money, how you get paid is different than being an employee somewhere. So I feel like treating them as employees and paying them as employees does not add up with the money that we are hiring a company to manage. So as far as what they pay their employees and how they pay their employees is their business. I get compensating them for the work that they've done, but I don't feel like it's at the level of an employee.
What they've said is the money that they bring in, they already pay so much out insurance and other things that they don't have any money left over to pay their employees.
But again,
They're out there working for free.
no, they're not working for free because it's their business that they own.
It's an investment on their part.
It's their business compared to where we used to have one city employee that used to drive out there and open up the gates and then go back and then drive back there and close the gates.
I'm not disputing the fact that they do more work than the one employee that we had. However, I'm disputing the fact that we should treat them as our employees when they're clearly not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I don't even know if this is even possible, but what if we treat them like a contract labor? Or like a contractor?
That's basically what we're doing
Oh,
currently.
issuing them as like a 1099 worker.
What? We have an agreement with a company, so it's a little bit
So
further.
we're increasing our amount to them. is what-
They're an independent contractor.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. All right. I misunderstood.
that's why it's a
that.
flat fee and not.
Okay, I misunderstood it. Sorry.
So if you go, so Jim, you're saying give them half of what they want, but half of 25,000, you're talking about giving them an increase of 2,500?
No, I said increase it like 8,000. That would be 2,000 per person. There's only 4 people that work out there. The rest of them, are on boards. They don't get paid any money. Nobody gets paid any money out there.
Well, they've got a list of 9.
Yeah, but
people.
Those are just people that belong to the company that are maybe investors, but now
But where do you draw the line? That's my thing.
you draw the line at the people that are out there working. There's only 4 people that are out there working. There's 3 that are there every day, 40 hours a week, and there's one that is there the 3 days a week as well as works at home. And like I said, it's
So
just,
which is it, JT? Is it these 9 that work 40, 40, 40, 40, 20, 20, 20? Or is it the 3 and,
There's 4 people that do on-site at least 40 hours a week.
so which 4 of these is it?
Michael Powell, myself, Charlie, and Adam.
So the first 4.
Now, that doesn't mean that people on that list are not contributing in planning, design, grant administration, accounting. I mean, so, but those are the four that are on site every day that we open up at 8, close at 4, come in after hours to help people. So, and I would say that what we've, not to add any confusion, but as it relates to, are we employees? Are we an independent contractor? We are an independent contractor, but we're essentially an extension of staff. The city can hire through Lowell's an extension of staff right now, if you will.
Right.
And so I think you both are saying perhaps the same thing, but because all of our efforts out there to date benefit the city, so far they do not benefit Florida Airport Management.
I mean, if you look at it like that, it's similar to what we pay for the sheriff's department. The sheriff department is a subcontractor. We hire them to police the city. And this year they're going to come to us and ask for an increase because their contract is up. And so pretty much, as we know, that the person that got rid of the police department, and now we're stuck with the sheriff, and pretty much whatever they ask for, we have an argument with that, the increase, but basically they're the same thing. They come out and they tell you, well, you need to replace $500,000 worth of employees every year. That's part of the contract. And you turn around and we turn around the last contract and they added 4 sergeants, which increased it another $800,000 a year or something like that. It's the same type of a situation that they're asking for increase in pay, increase in wages, increase in vehicle replacement, new radios and so on and so forth. And basically we either say yes or we say no. It's the same type of a thing, but my only point is the money that they agreed to with the hopeful that they were sort of given the idea that like by the end of last winter, no matter what, they were going to basically have this lease signed. Now, I understand there's no guarantees. And then obviously the FAA and the FDOT have been involved with this tremendously. But and all they're asking for is that they've done this for a year and basically they're not paying themselves any money. And I just try to think that I think we should just try to do the right thing, at least pay them something. Whatever you think is they should get paid something to be out there, then make that motion. But I think it's just it's a shame that we have people out there running the airport, doing a great job, bringing in more income, bringing in more leases, and as well as writing grants for the city. And you think it's like tough luck. That's what they agreed to.
JT,
Yes, ma'am.
you said there's going to be a grant come through in 2024, possibly.
Oh, well, since we've been here, there's already been north of 6 million in grants that
Right.
y'all signed for.
Right, but you said there would be another one probably in 2024.
In 2024, we have north of 10 million in
Okay,
expected grants.
okay, and
Well,
what, and you said that this should be done in at least 120 days. You said you're looking at it to be done in 120.
Statutorily, it should be done in 120 days or less.
Okay, so my thoughts, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels, let's do the 12, we'll do half of it. And then next year, after we get the grants and we get the 120 days and see if it's gonna go through, then possibly, well, I guess that wouldn't work then because then they would be done,
if the
right?
grant doesn't go through, then, or excuse me, if the AIPP doesn't go through, then they will cease to be out there, period.
All right. So it doesn't
Well,
work then.
I would recommend that you could, whatever y'all choose or don't choose to increase it today would stop in 12 months or AIPP closing, or you assign the rents and the fuels.
Yep.
Whichever one of those comes first.
Personally, we have 3 more things that we need to get to. I think the best thing to do is to put this off until our next meeting. Let staff take a look at the grants that are out there. Let Lowell take a look at the facts and figures that were provided and see if they're in line in his opinion. Or we can just simply vote no. But those are my 2 options in my mind at this point. But we have to get to 3 more things and it's getting kind of late. So.
Okay, well, I don't want to just totally throw it away. I'd like to revisit it. So I will make a motion to go ahead and postpone this indefinitely.
Okay.
And then maybe we can revisit it and see where we can go from there. Maybe that'll give time for Lowell to.
Should be plenty of time before our next meeting for everybody to look at what they
Yes,
need to look at.
Yes.
Mayor,
Okay,
may
so
I
we-
make a comment?
Please.
According to their agreement, they get a CPI increase every year, which we did not apply in April of this year. So their monthly agreement payment should be $10,493. a month, so we should at least do that tonight, maybe.
Okay,
Agree.
that is fine. So are you retracting your motion?
Retract motion, yes.
Okay, would you like to change your motion to increase it to the amount specified by Melody?
Yes, please. How much was it, Melody?
10,000 493.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second to that effect?
I'll second.
We have a second. All right, question. JT, do you have a question?
I was just curious if that was, that back check would be back to April.
Yes, so we owe them actually $2,958.
That was your motion to that effect?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, a second to that effect. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Item number 13, we have a public hearing for resolution 2023-18. This will be proposed millage rates.
Yet,
Page 208.
208.
a resolution of the city of Avon Park of Highlands County, Florida, adopting a tentative levying of ad valorem taxes for Highlands County for fiscal year 2023 to 2024, providing for an effective date.
Okay, so we have a resolution for, this will be for the current millage rate, the current budgeted millage rate at 4.3681. Melody, is there any other additional comments you'd like to add?
No, this is just the millage rate that will be passed permanently. It will be advertised in the paper on Friday.
Okay, so at this current millage rate with the savings from the insurance, which was also coming out of general fund, right?
Mhm,
Not including anything to do with the airport.
mhm.
There's a difference of right about
364. 364,000. That's with the increase of 259 with the fire assessment
okay. So there's 364 coming out of the
reserve.
reserve.
Mhm.
Okay. So just so everyone's clear, there's $360,000 already coming out of reserve without increasing the millage whatsoever. So does anyone want to discuss increasing the millage above the current 4.368 rate? See no takers. Is anyone in favor of keeping it as presented?
I make a motion, we keep it as presented.
Okay, we have a motion for 4.3681. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Item number 14. Oh, I messed up. So was there anyone from the, I did ask, but was there anyone from the public that was wishing to speak on the proposed millage rate? Because that was supposed to be a public hearing.
One quick question. Chad
Yes, sir.
Pritchett. Is that, so now that you just voted through, is that final or is there another reading of that?
No, that's it.
That would be
That's it.
final.
Okay.
Yeah, so there'll be 360 some odd $1,000 coming from reserves.
Okay. And then one comment on the little airport scenario there. It would be interesting to see his comparables, his peer comps.
Yes.
I didn't know if I was allowed to speak, but I would have probably asked because I'm betting that they're not Wauchula and Fort Meade.
They're not, as he stated already. They're definitely not comparable to those two airports. That was part of the issue that they had, but that was one reason why I was wanting our attorney to take a look at it, because he is an expert in that field and can draw those comparisons.
Good deal. Thank you.
Okay, so to resolution 2020.
Yes, sir.
Question. Steve Alsop again. Just a question I never did really got answered. I know this goes back a little bit, but I know a lot of these folks here are staying because one of the things, and I know we didn't really talk about it in here, but I asked the question, then I just went on to make statements, but the fire assessment at the 80 unit cap for mobile home parks and Avon Parks. Was that something that the board of the city council members voted on a while back? Does that have to be voted to retract that? Or is it just going to be, I know on the trim notice I got, it was showing 599 residential homes, which technically we only have 509. We got 90 empty lots. But so are these numbers that you're calculating, are they included with us paying the full 509 homes at $140 a unit?
That's what is currently approved, yes.
Okay, so there was, I mean, I guess I don't understand why it was lowered to 80 unit cap and then why all of a sudden it changed. You know, I'm just one of these type people that, you know, like A-type personality that just needs to know why.
Sure.
I'm from Missouri originally, so you got to show me.
So as far as I'm aware, that was something that the company that did the study saw that abnormality in there, and they said there's no reason, there's no agreement in place, there's no reason why they can see justifying not charging for every single dwelling unit. Now, if there's a discrepancy of the amount of dwelling units that you have, obviously that is something that you can and should argue. And we'd be more than happy to, you know, take a look at that. And if there's an error on the city's part, then they would definitely correct that.
Okay.
But like you said, as far as the units, and I mean, quite frankly, I agree with it. If there's 509 units out there, they should be charged for 509 units.
Okay, well, I agree to a certain extent. I mean, if I live there, so, you know, I have a double wide mobile home that I'm, you know, working on. But, you know, if it catches on fire, I definitely want the fire department to come and, you know, rescue me and my wife, whatever, you know, but it's just you know, I guess it's the equitable thing as far as going from 80 units to 509, just like that. That's where a lot of these people, you know, I mean, if there was some way you could, you know, bump it up to 160 and then, you know, to whatever, you know, and bring that up at a slower pace. I know that would ruin your budget. But, you know, I just know a lot of these people, like I said, they're on fixed incomes. That's going to, you know, that $100,000 increase goes directly to the residents, and it's going to have to be divided amongst the 509 homes. I don't remember exactly. I don't have a calculator, but it's going to be, you know, it's going to be substantial amount to these people. That's the only thing. I was trying to find some more clarity. Couldn't find anything online about it or how it happened in the past. You know, why the first year we were annexed into the city, it went to like 70,000 just like that. And then the next year it dropped back down. So I didn't know if somebody had really, you know, maybe saw that it wasn't fair to charge, you know, the same amount for a mobile home that's on a small lot to, you know, like I said before, like a 3,000 square foot home on 2 acres.
So as far as I can tell you, obviously there was no legal justification for it. It may have been something that a previous council arbitrarily did without legal justification. But as far as the conversations that I had with the firm that did the study, they saw no legal justifications for charging any different than any other home, because then it now opens up to, well, why is it only being charged for 80 whenever there's, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 other homes in Avon Park that are being charged differently? There's mobile homes in other parts of Avon Park that are also being charged individually. I think we have roughly 4 to 5 other mobile home parks that they're not nearly as big as Crystal Lake. But the same thing, they're a single or a double wide trailer. They're being charged individually. So why the difference? Now, if it was a contract that was part of an annexation agreement, which was what I thought would have been the likely scenario, we couldn't find one. I think you guys were asked if you had anything, and you guys didn't provide anything either. So without some sort of agreement in place, how can we legally justify a difference? I guess is the point.
Okay. Do you guys have anything? Yeah, it's 154 now. So yeah, that's going to be a substantial increase. So, but I guess there's really nothing.
The major increase is not necessarily the amount per, it's the fact that 509 are being assessed. Well, as you said, 599, but there's only 509 out there, which is definitely something that you need to get clarified. It's the fact there was only 80 being charged, and now all of them are being charged. That is the big change.
Yeah, definitely. That's why, you know, if this could have been brought to us a little bit at a time, I think it would have went over a little better, but.
Okay.
So.
I understand. All right. Any other comments on the millage? Seeing none. Have you already read?
No. A resolution in the city of Avon Park, Highlands County, Florida, adopting a tentative budget for the, well, you're talking about. Have you passed the millage or the budget?
We've already passed the millage. We're moving to the budget.
The tentative budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024, providing for an effective date. Let's track.
All right. So this is a public hearing for resolution number 2023-19, setting the tentative budget. Anyone wishing to speak on the budget can now do so. Seeing no takers. Public hearing for resolution number 2023-19 is now closed. Take it back to the council. Any comments about the budget?
I do have a comment. The amount that is on here in section 1 will be changed. So if you could just make your motion, it will be updated based on the information that we passed tonight.
Okay. So the correct motion would be to set the tentative millage and adopt resolution 2023-19 with the approved changes. Anyone care to make that motion? Make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-19 with the adopted changes. Is there a second?
No, second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Questions on setting the tentative budget?
I have one question
Go
for you,
ahead.
Melody. I know that when we talked about employee increases and so forth, it was mentioned that you were that we were going through contract negotiations with the fire department. Is that correct? With the union?
Yes, but that's not been finalized yet.
Okay, so where my question would be is, do we have money in there to, if there is an increase?
They have right now, they get a 3% increase like every other employee. So I don't, if they decide to, they'll have to probably bring it before you if they want an increase. So at that time, you guys will decide
Okay.
and we'll amend the budget. at
Well, I
that
guess
point.
maybe a
Okay.
question for the chief. Chief, are you aware of any negotiating criteria or any negotiating facts that would significantly impact the budget more than your 3% COLA?
No.
Doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't sound like it.
Here. That's dead too, I think.
No, I've replaced all the batteries.
Keep going.
Moving on up.
Right, how's that?
There we go.
So the 3% is all that's been proposed right now, and they seem fine with that. There's some talk about some other minor changes to overtime and stuff like that, but I don't think that's going to be a significant amount that should change the budget a whole lot.
Okay. Any other questions about it?
No, that's good. Thanks.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Last call for questions on the tentative budget. Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you. Item number 15, we have a first reading for ordinance number 09-2023.
An ordinance of the city of Avon Park, Florida, providing for adoption of code changes to add fats, oils, and grease fog program to wastewater code. Providing for amending the city code section 98-268 regarding definitions, rules, and construction abbreviations to add fog-related definitions. Providing for amending section 98-147 improper discharge or deposit of waste to add provisions relating to fog regulation, providing for amending section 98-270 restrictions on discharge to sewer system to add fog-related prohibitions to the wastewater code, formally adopt the fog program and adopt the fats, oils, and grease program manual containing more details, prohibitions, and information about the fog regulation. Provide for amending section 98-271 assessment of certain restrictions requiring pretreatment and equalization facilities to add references to other fog sections and require proper transport of fog. Providing for amending section 98-273 interceptors required to add reference to fog manual as to requirements for design, installation of maintenance of clean of fog interceptors, providing for amending section 98-276 reporting requirements to add references to fog manual regarding sampling and clarify that the city may use contract labs for sampling and analysis, providing for codification and repeal of conflicting codes, ordinances, and resolutions, providing for severability, scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date.
Jerry, we have an issue with fats entering our system.
We do.
Okay,
We've always had an issue with where all sewage facilities do. Basically, it's mostly grease that comes from cooking. A lot of restaurants and areas. This is really more geared towards those larger producers. They'll be required to have grease traps installed and a certain size. It's defined by the manual that we'll be adopting. And what that does is it improves the system with regard to clogs and materials that come into the system, create a problem for operations and so on. And it's required by the state anyway.
So is it not already a provision that every restaurant and or grease producer has to have a grease separator?
Yes, it is. But there's not anything in place right now requiring that they actually remove it.
Okay.
And so that's an aspect of this. There's gonna be fines, disconnection of service, and those types of regulations. Also, right now, it's like whatever they put in, I'm not aware of any control over that. Some do it under the sink, which is not enough. And they need to be, the sizing of those tanks is built into this system,
I see.
the new program. And so all any new producer will need to work with that, and existing ones will have to work with it over given time.
Is this something, obviously the sizing and everything, is that some sort of a standard? that
Yes.
is used statewide or?
Not it's statewide, but it is a pretty common one. And this one actually came from another city.
Okay.
I provide.
Like, is this something that your typical fast food restaurant would already have in place, or is this something that's going to vastly affect every restaurant in Avon Park?
I don't know about vastly affect. It might affect them if they're not pumping it out. And I know that we're not enforcing that right now. That I know for a fact.
I see.
So do you have an estimate of how much it would cost for these businesses to come up to code?
No, I don't know that.
Okay.
And but I do know that if they don't pump it, they're useless. And that's not being, well, we're not enforcing that right now, but there'll be reporting requirements on that, and there'll be obviously enforcement associated with that now.
Do you know if any, whether Sebring, Lake Placid or the county has anything like this?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I do know there's, many cities that do. All you got to do is just go to any city and either fats or grease or fog, and they'll come up.
Yeah.
So all the larger cities have it now, and most of the cities your size have it. Like Lake Wales has a fog program, and in fact, they're looking to improve that, even that. So we're it's something we need to get in place.
Do they differentiate according to the type of restaurant, like a beverage facility versus a fast food?
Yeah, the sizing would have something to do with that, but I don't know how that's done. It's something engineers do.
I'm just thinking of like if they do make smoothies, they're not going to have a lot of fats and greases, but they still may be a large smoothie shop versus McDonald's. So is there a differentiation according to the type of restaurant that's in there?
I believe there is, yes. And the sizing of it, it'd have to have some grease production aspect to it. Otherwise, it would be.
So they have to produce so much grease, and then that determines what they need to buy.
Yeah, that would be the type of a place they are. So a smoothie place would not be something that would be a primary target.
Okay.
A restaurant would, a totally takeout restaurant might be if they have, if they have fryers and things like that.
And as I understand it, a place that actually puts a large number of fats and or greases down their pipes typically already has plumbing issues if they're not removing it properly. Because those fats don't want to go down. Obviously, they tend to float on top of the water. So.
Right. That's how they're removed by the separation tank.
So if you're a large polluter in this regard, you would likely be well aware of the issue, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's not going to be a surprise to them.
Yeah.
Restaurants, not at all.
Yeah.
So if this is adopted tonight, this ordinance, who's going to do the enforcing on this?
We are, but it's, that's.
So we would have somebody designated to go to the different businesses and make sure they're disposing their fog correctly?
Yeah, I spoke to Joseph. He says he has somebody in mind already.
Oh.
So it would be the same line as like backflow preventers and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the state's just getting more strict with these types of circumstances because
So wouldn't the state focus more on the businesses instead of the city?
they don't, they make us do it. In fact, they make all utilities do it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the personnel either.
The chances are the people that are putting in something new, obviously it's going to come up because it's going to be part of the application process, or if you're getting a business license and things like that.
So the older
Seems like
people,
that-
older restaurants, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
They would be grandfathered in.
No, they wouldn't be grandfathered in legally, but it's just typically if you're someone new or doing something different, you're always going to be scrutinized more than a place that already exists. It's typically how it goes.
Seems like the health department would have some kind of
Yeah.
say on that when you go get I mean, if a restaurant's gonna go through the health department,
You
so
would
why wouldn't
assume-
they have guidelines?
Well, and just bear in mind though, that the guidelines that they're done by the state are usually very lax as opposed to what you want in order to protect your own system. They're just there, to
get
be
money
the
from
minimum,
permits.
the absolute minimum.
Sure.
Okay, well, this is a first reading and it would not be inappropriate for any of us to go and notify local businesses that this is a thing that's coming up and they should take a
No.
look at it, right?
Well, you can notify whoever you want.
Okay. All right. So first reading for ordinance number 09-2023. Have we already did a motion?
No,
No.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion.
we have to open up public.
First reading doesn't say it. Anyone care to speak on this issue? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve, ordinance 09-2023, please.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Last call for questions. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Staff updates? Attorney updates?
Nope.
Anyone gonna do the city manager report?
Yes, he asked me to, if you don't
Okay.
mind. He wanted to give an update on the LCOB construction will begin construction on the roof at City Hall pending. They're waiting on a special type of screw to come in. But that should start on Thursday, and we have to tent City Hall and the council chambers for termites. We got 3 quotes. Orkin came in at the lowest. It's gonna cost $14,754, which we can take from the code enforcement budget.
Okay.
who's that company again, please?
Orkin?
Did we go through Cox this time? Cox?
No, we got Pest Guard and Clark Pest Control
Cox is usually a lot less. You might want to look into them.
next time. I'll let Andy know.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Is it too late to let them know this time?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to
Just
You
get
you
back.
didn't actually call the people, right?
did not,
It was someone
no.
else. So they may have actually called them.
Yes,
Okay.
he may have, so I don't know.
Because that's
They
really.
they typically do, so I would be
He
surprised. if they
generally reaches out to 4 or 5 different people. So.
Right.
Okay.
And we've used them in the past, so I would assume he's on their radar.
It's just kind of surprising for Orkin to come in less than Cox,
Mhm.
but
Who knows?
So a lot of them don't want to deal with the big city hall. They don't want to get the crane and everything.
Okay.
It really depends on the franchisee.
Sure. Anything else for the good of the city?
Nope.
Seeing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
God bless America. We are adjourned.